The silence of space carries no sound, yet somehow it whispers. Picture the moment just before dawn breaks across the Martian landscape. Ancient craters stretch endlessly beneath a butterscotch sky, their shadows pooling like ink in the deepest hollows. For 4.5 billion years, this world has turned in solitude, spinning its secrets into the cosmic dark. The wind here moves differently than on Earth, thinner, colder, carrying dust that has traveled continents without ever knowing rain. But on this particular morning, something changes. Deep in the Mission Control Center at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, a transmission arrives that will rewrite everything we thought we knew about the red planet. The data streams in as binary whispers, each pulse carrying information from a probe millions of miles away. What begins as routine telemetry quickly becomes something far more extraordinary. Dr. Sarah Chen, lead mission scientist, stares at her monitor as the first high-resolution images materialize pixel by pixel. She has seen thousands of Martian photographs over her career, endless variations of rust-colored rock and windswept plains. But these images are different. They seem to shimmer with an almost electric quality, as if the very dust contains secrets waiting to be decoded. The probe responsible for this revelation is designated 3I Atlas, an interstellar visitor that defied every prediction about its trajectory. Originally discovered as it passed through our solar system, this enigmatic object exhibited behaviors that challenged our understanding of natural celestial mechanics. Unlike typical asteroids or comets, 3I Atlas appeared to make subtle course corrections, its path suggesting an almost deliberate navigation through space. As the morning sun climbs higher over Pasadena, the scientists gathered around Dr. Chen's workstation begin to notice patterns in the data that shouldn't exist. The atmospheric readings pulse with rhythmic variations. The geological surveys reveal formations that seem too geometric, too purposeful to be entirely natural. Most disturbing of all, the probe's cameras capture what appears to be a response, as if Mars itself is acknowledging their presence. The mission was supposed to be straightforward. 3I Atlas would conduct a flyby survey, mapping the planet's surface and atmosphere before continuing its journey into the outer solar system. Instead, the probe has entered a stable orbit, its instruments focused on a region near Valles Marineris with an intensity that suggests more than mere scientific curiosity. In the quiet hours before the world awakens to this discovery, a small team of researchers processes the impossible. The data suggests that Mars is not the dead world they believed it to be. Something beneath that red dust is very much alive, and it has been waiting a very long time for someone to notice. The first transmission ends with an image that will haunt everyone who sees it. A perfectly circular formation of stones arranged in concentric rings, casting shadows that seem to move independently of the sun's position. Below the photograph, a timestamp indicates when the image was captured. But according to the probe's internal chronometer, that moment occurred 17 minutes in the future. As Dr. Chen reaches for her secure phone to contact the director, she realizes that humanity has just received its first message from another world. The message is simple, elegant, and terrifying in its implications. We see you seeing us. Meanwhile, in the hours following that first anomalous transmission, the team at Mission Control struggles to process what they're witnessing. The probe designated 3I Atlas hangs in the thin Martian atmosphere like a mechanical angel, its solar arrays catching the pale morning light. From this vantage point, roughly 300 kilometers above the planet's surface, every detail of the ancient world spreads out below in crystalline clarity. The Great Canyon system of Valles Marineris cuts across the landscape like a wound that never healed, its walls revealing billions of years of geological history in perfect stratigraphic layers. Dr. Marcus Webb, the mission's imaging specialist, has spent the last 6 hours analyzing the probe's camera systems. Everything appears to be functioning normally. Aperture settings correct, focus mechanisms responding properly, data compression algorithms operating within expected parameters. Yet the images being transmitted back to Earth contain elements that simply should not exist. The morning briefing room fills with a tension that tastes like stale coffee and existential dread. Project Director Elizabeth Harper reviews the overnight data while her team of engineers and scientists wait in uncomfortable silence. The images on the main display screen show Mars as they've always known it, red, dusty, seemingly lifeless. But embedded within the metadata of each photograph are anomalies that suggest the planet is far from dead. Temperature readings fluctuate in patterns that mirror biological rhythms. Atmospheric pressure variations pulse with the regularity of breathing. Most unnervingly, the probe's magnetometer detects field fluctuations that seem to respond to the spacecraft's own scanning sequences, as if something below is actively engaging with their instruments. Dr. Chen approaches the central console, her fingers trembling slightly as she pulls up the most recent batch of images. The photographs show a region of the Martian highlands that should be geologically inactive, ancient terrain shaped by impacts and erosion over cosmic time. Instead, the surface appears to be covered with geometric patterns that extend for dozens of kilometers in every direction. The patterns are subtle at first glance, visible only when the images are processed through specialized enhancement algorithms. Lines of darker material form intersecting grids across the landscape, their arrangement suggesting mathematical precision rather than natural formation. When viewed from different angles as the probe's orbit carries it across the sky, these patterns seem to shift and change, creating an optical illusion of movement across the static Martian surface. "It's almost like looking at a circuit board," whispers Dr. James Rodriguez, the team's geologist. But a circuit board the size of a continent. The implications of his observation hang heavy in the recycled air of the control room. If these patterns are artificial, and that remains a significant if, then Mars once hosted a civilization capable of planetary-scale engineering. The alternative explanation, that these formations are entirely natural, requires accepting geological processes that current science cannot adequately explain. As the morning progresses, 3i Atlas continues its methodical survey of the Martian surface. Each new image adds another piece to an increasingly complex puzzle. The probe's spectrometers detect unusual mineral compositions in the areas where geometric patterns are most pronounced. These materials appear to be crystalline structures that formed under conditions unlike anything previously documented on Mars. Dr. Harper finally breaks the silence that has settled over the control room like a shroud. "We need to consider the possibility that we're looking at evidence of past or present intelligence on Mars," she says, her voice barely above a whisper. "The patterns are too regular, too extensive to be coincidental. Something created this, and we need to figure out what." The team exchanges glances that speak volumes about the magnitude of their discovery. They are scientists, trained to seek rational explanations for observed phenomena. But the data from 3i Atlas challenges their most fundamental assumptions about the nature of Mars and its history. As the probe disappears behind the planet's limb, temporarily cutting off communication with Earth, the researchers are left to contemplate a question that will reshape humanity's understanding of its place in the universe. What if we are not alone and never have been? Centuries earlier, astronomers gazed at Mars through primitive telescopes and imagined canals carved by intelligent beings. The story of 3i Atlas begins not with its discovery, but with its arrival in our solar system 18 months ago. Unlike the predictable paths of planets and known asteroids, this object emerged from the constellation Perseus with a trajectory that defied conventional celestial mechanics. Its designation, 3i standing for Third Interstellar, marks it as only the third confirmed visitor from beyond our solar neighborhood. Dr. Michael Reeves, the astronomer who first spotted 3i Atlas through the Catalina Sky Survey telescope, describes the moment of discovery with the reverence usually reserved for religious experiences. The object appeared as a faint smudge against the stellar background, moving with apparent purpose through the cosmic void. Initial calculations suggested it would make a close approach to Mars before swinging around the Sun and disappearing forever into the darkness between stars. But 3I Atlas proved to be far from typical. As observatories around the world trained their instruments on the mysterious visitor, its true nature began to emerge. Unlike Oumuamua, the elongated asteroid that became famous as our first confirmed interstellar visitor, 3I Atlas exhibited a roughly spherical shape with surface features that seemed almost deliberately crafted. Its dimensions, approximately 2 kilometers in diameter, placed it squarely in the category of small celestial bodies, yet its behavior suggested something far more complex. The first hint of anomalous activity came when 3I Atlas began making subtle course corrections during its approach to the inner solar system. These maneuvers were tiny, barely detectable even with the most sensitive instruments, but they represented clear violations of the laws governing natural orbital mechanics. Objects moving through space follow predictable paths determined by gravitational forces. They do not adjust their trajectories without external influence. Dr. Sandra Liu, who leads the Near-Earth Object Program at NASA, spent months analyzing the probe's orbital data. Her team identified 17 separate trajectory modifications, each one precisely calculated to optimize the object's path toward Mars. The adjustments demonstrated an understanding of orbital dynamics that suggested either advanced technology or an intelligence capable of long-term navigation planning. The surface of 3I Atlas presents its own mysteries. High-resolution images captured by the Hubble Space Telescope reveal a mottled exterior covered in what appear to be geometric patterns, hexagonal formations that tile across the entire visible surface like a vast honeycomb. These patterns remain constant despite the object's rotation, suggesting they are integral to its structure rather than surface features created by impact or erosion. Spectroscopic analysis reveals an even more intriguing puzzle. The object's composition includes materials that are extremely rare in our solar system: metallic hydrogen compounds, crystalline carbon structures, and exotic isotopes that typically form only under extreme conditions found in the cores of ancient stars. The presence of these materials suggests that 3I Atlas traveled for perhaps millions of years through interstellar space before arriving in our cosmic neighborhood. As the object approached Mars, its behavior became increasingly difficult to explain through natural phenomena. Radio telescopes detected faint electromagnetic emissions emanating from 3I Atlas, structured signals that pulsed with mathematical precision. The signals appeared to be directed toward Mars rather than broadcast randomly into space, suggesting some form of communication or scanning activity. The moment when 3I Atlas achieved orbital insertion around Mars will be remembered as one of the most significant events in the history of space exploration. The maneuver required a complex series of thruster burns timed with split-second precision, a feat that would challenge even Earth's most advanced spacecraft. Yet 3I Atlas accomplished this transition smoothly, settling into a stable orbit that provides optimal coverage of the planet's most geologically interesting regions. Mission planners had assumed they were tracking a natural asteroid that would provide a unique opportunity to study Mars from close range. Instead, they found themselves monitoring what increasingly appears to be an artificial probe, a robotic explorer that arrived from another star system with its own scientific agenda. The implications of this realization extend far beyond the immediate scientific value of the Martian observations. If 3I Atlas is indeed artificial, it represents the first confirmed evidence of technology created by a non-human intelligence. The probe's sophisticated navigation capabilities and apparent autonomy suggest a level of technological advancement that equals or exceeds humanity's current achievements in space exploration. As 3I Atlas continues its survey of Mars, each new transmission adds weight to the growing conviction that humanity has encountered something unprecedented. The object's mysterious origins, impossible trajectory adjustments, and sophisticated orbital mechanics paint a picture of intelligence operating on a cosmic scale. Intelligence that chose Mars as its destination for reasons that remain tantalizingly unclear. But another possibility emerges when we consider the deep history of Mars itself, written in layers of stone and sediment across billions of years. The Mars that 3I Atlas now surveys from orbit bears little resemblance to the world that existed when our solar system was young. 4 billion years ago, the red planet blazed with blue skies and flowing rivers, its atmosphere thick enough to support liquid water on the surface. Vast oceans covered much of the northern hemisphere, their shores lapped by waves that carried the chemical building blocks of life from continent to continent. Dr. Patricia Coleman, a planetary geologist who has devoted her career to understanding Mars' ancient climate, describes this lost world with the passion of someone reconstructing a murder scene. The evidence lies scattered across the planet's surface: dried riverbeds that once carried more water than the Amazon, mineral deposits that could only form in the presence of hot springs, and sedimentary layers that speak of millions of years when rain fell regularly on Martian soil. The transformation from this vibrant world to the cold desert that exists today represents one of the most dramatic climate changes in the solar system is history. Somewhere around 3.7 billion years ago, Mars began losing its atmosphere to space. The planet's weak magnetic field, caused by the cooling of its metallic core, could no longer protect the thin envelope of gases that made liquid water possible. Solar wind stripped away the atmosphere molecule by molecule, leaving behind a world where water could exist only as ice or brief seasonal flows in the deepest canyons. Yet even as Mars was dying, life may have been taking its first tentative steps on the planet's surface. The same period that saw the loss of the atmosphere also corresponds to the era when Earth's earliest microorganisms were establishing themselves in primordial oceans. If life emerged on Mars during this critical window, and the chemical conditions certainly allowed for it, then 3I Atlas may be surveying the remains of an ancient biosphere. The search for Martian life has driven much of our exploration of the red planet over the past half-century. Robot rovers have traversed its surface, drilling into rocks and analyzing soil samples for traces of organic compounds. Orbital surveys have mapped the distribution of water ice and identified locations where liquid water may still flow beneath the surface. Each mission has brought us closer to answering the fundamental question of whether life ever took hold on our planetary neighbor. But the data being transmitted by 3I Atlas suggests a possibility that previous missions never considered, that life on Mars may have evolved beyond the microbial stage before the planet's climate collapsed. The geometric patterns visible in the probe as images appear in regions that would have been habitable during Mars' wet period. Their scale and complexity imply not just life, but intelligence capable of reshaping the planetary surface. Dr. Ahmed Hassan, who studies the evolution of complex life on Earth, points out that intelligence is not necessarily a late-arriving phenomenon in biological evolution. On Earth, problem-solving behaviors and tool use appear in creatures as diverse as octopi, dolphins, and corvids, species that diverged from the human lineage hundreds of millions of years ago. If life on Mars had 4 billion years to evolve before the planet's atmosphere was stripped away, there was certainly time for intelligence to emerge. The possibility becomes even more intriguing when we consider the planet's geological history. Mars experienced periods of intense volcanic activity that created massive mountain ranges and vast lava plains. These geological processes could have provided the raw materials and energy sources necessary for technological development. Underground volcanic systems might have offered refuges where life could persist, even as the surface became increasingly hostile. As the climate shifted and the atmosphere thinned, any intelligent Martians would have faced an existential challenge. They could have retreated underground, adapting to life in the planet's extensive cave systems and lava tubes. Alternatively, they might have developed technologies that allowed them to migrate to other worlds, technologies that could explain the sophisticated capabilities demonstrated by 3I Atlas. The patterns visible in the probe as images may represent the last monuments of a dying civilization, massive construction projects designed to preserve knowledge or communicate with future visitors to the planet. The geometric arrangements could be libraries written in stone, astronomical observatories aligned with distant stars, or even launching facilities where the last Martians departed for other worlds. This scenario, while speculative, aligns with the evidence being gathered by 3I Atlas better than any purely geological explanation. The patterns are too extensive and too purposeful to result from natural processes alone. They speak of intelligence operating on a planetary scale, leaving behind traces that would survive even the complete transformation of the Martian environment. As the probe continues its systematic survey of the planet, each new image adds another chapter to this ancient story. The red dust that covers everything may be more than just the remnant of geological processes. It may be the accumulated debris of a lost world carrying within its particles the molecular signatures of life that once flourished beneath alien skies. As the climate shifted and Mars transformed into the world we know today, 3I Atlas captured something that would forever change our understanding of the planet's mysteries. The image designated as Anomaly 46b arrived during the probe's 15th orbital pass over the Martian highlands. Dr. Chen first noticed it during her routine review of the morning's data, a subtle geometric arrangement that stood out against the chaotic terrain of impact craters and windswept plains. What initially appeared to be another natural formation revealed itself, under enhanced analysis, to be something far more extraordinary. 3 parallel lines, each approximately 50 kilometers in length, intersect at precisely 60-degree angles to form a massive triangular pattern on the planet's surface. The lines themselves appear to be carved or built into the landscape, raised ridges that cast sharp shadows in the oblique morning light. Their edges are geometrically perfect, displaying none of the erosional softening that would be expected from millions of years of Martian weather. Dr. Rodriguez spends the next 72 hours analyzing every aspect of the formation. He measures the distances between the lines, calculates their orientations relative to the planet's magnetic field, and compares their positions to known geological features. Every measurement confirms what the team fears to acknowledge, that Anomaly 46b displays characteristics that cannot be explained by any known natural process. The precision of the angles troubles him most. Natural processes rarely create perfect geometric relationships. Rivers meander, volcanic flows follow the path of least resistance, and wind erosion carves random patterns into stone. Yet the lines in Anomaly 46b maintain their 60-degree intersections across their entire length, deviation measuring less than 0.3 degrees, a tolerance that would challenge modern engineering capabilities. Dr. Lisa Park, the mission's atmospheric physicist, discovers an even more puzzling aspect of the formation. The probe's thermal imaging reveals that the lines radiate heat differently than the surrounding terrain. During the Martian day, they absorb solar energy and store it with unusual efficiency. At night, they release this stored heat in patterns that pulse rhythmically across their length, creating a display visible only in infrared wavelengths. The heat signatures suggest that the lines are composed of materials with highly specific thermal properties, possibly artificial substances designed to regulate temperature or store energy. Natural rock formations do not typically exhibit such precise thermal behaviors, especially across such vast distances. Meanwhile, the probe's magnetometer detects subtle variations in the local magnetic field strength along the line's paths. These variations follow a pattern that resembles binary code, alternating zones of high and low magnetic intensity that repeat in sequences of 8. Dr. Park's team spends weeks attempting to decode these magnetic patterns, treating them as potential data streams that might contain encoded information. The magnetic anomalies are particularly concentrated at the 3 intersection points where the lines meet. At these locations, the field strength increases dramatically, creating localized zones of magnetic activity that would be clearly visible to any spacecraft equipped with appropriate sensors. The pattern suggests that these intersection points serve as some form of markers or beacons, navigational aids designed to be detected from orbit. As news of Anomaly 46b spreads through the scientific community, researchers around the world begin searching for similar formations in archived images of Mars. Within days, they identify 17 additional geometric patterns scattered across the planet's surface. Each displays the same characteristic precision, the same unusual thermal properties, and the same magnetic signatures. The distribution of these formations follows no obvious geological pattern. They appear in both ancient and relatively young terrain, spanning billions of years of Martian history. Some lie in the deepest impact basins, suggesting they predate the cosmic bombardment that scarred the planet's early surface. Others appear on volcanic plains that formed much more recently, implying ongoing activity even after Mars became the cold desert world we observe today. Dr. Jennifer Walsh, a specialist in ancient architectures on Earth, notes striking similarities between the Martian patterns and geometric arrangements found at prehistoric sites around our own planet. The same 60-degree angles appear in stone circles in Scotland, temple complexes in Cambodia, and astronomical observatories built by Maya astronomers. She suggests that these angles may represent universal mathematical principles that any intelligence would discover and utilize. The team faces an uncomfortable decision about how to present their findings to the world. The evidence for artificial origin continues to mount with each new analysis, yet the implications are so profound that they hesitate to make definitive claims. The discovery of intelligent design on Mars would fundamentally alter humanity's understanding of life in the universe, transforming us from potential pioneers to confirmed latecomers in the cosmic story. Dr. Harper calls for additional orbital passes over anomaly 46b, hoping that different lighting conditions and viewing angles might reveal natural explanations for the formation's unusual characteristics. But as 3I Atlas continues its methodical survey, each new image only reinforces the conclusion that something intelligent once walked beneath Martian skies, leaving behind monuments that endure long after their creators vanished into the red dust of history. The probe's cameras capture one final detail that confirms the team's growing suspicions. At the center of the triangular formation, where the three lines converge most closely, lies a circular depression filled with what appears to be metallic debris. The debris glints in the sunlight with colors that do not occur naturally in Martian rocks, blues and greens and brilliant silvers that speak of artificial alloys and engineered materials. Centuries earlier, ancient architects on Earth incorporated these same mathematical relationships into structures that still inspire wonder today. The discovery of anomaly 46b opens the door to a more systematic analysis of the geometric patterns that 3I Atlas continues to identify across the Martian surface. Dr. Chen assembles a team of mathematicians, archaeologists, and pattern recognition specialists to develop new algorithms capable of detecting artificial structures in the probe's vast database of images. Their initial results prove both fascinating and disturbing. The patterns are not random arrangements scattered across the planet's surface. They form interconnected networks that span entire continents. Lines connect distant formations, creating geometric relationships that are only visible when viewed from orbital altitude. The network displays characteristics reminiscent of circuit boards, transportation systems, or communication arrays scaled up to planetary proportions. Dr. Sarah Kim, a mathematician who specializes in fractal geometry, discovers that the Martian patterns exhibit self-similarity across multiple scales. The same angular relationships that define individual formations also govern the connections between distant sites. When mapped at progressively larger scales, the network reveals nested layers of geometric organization that extend from local features spanning a few kilometers to global patterns that encompass the entire planet. This hierarchical organization suggests a level of planning and coordination that would require sophisticated understanding of mathematics and engineering principles. The builders of these structures, assuming they were built rather than naturally formed, possessed knowledge of geometric relationships that human civilization only began to appreciate during the Renaissance. The patterns also incorporate mathematical constants that appear throughout nature and human architecture. The golden ratio, approximately 1.618, governs the proportional relationships between different elements of the network. The same ratio that determines the spiral arrangements of seeds in sunflowers and the proportions of the Parthenon in Athens appears to regulate the spacing between geometric formations on Mars. Dr. Chen's team identifies recurring angular measurements that correspond to fundamental geometric principles. 60-degree angles, which form the basis of equilateral triangles and hexagonal structures, appear most frequently. These are followed by angles based on the golden ratio and measurements that correspond to astronomical phenomena such as planetary orbital periods and the precession of axial rotation. The incorporation of astronomical constants suggests that the builders possessed sophisticated understanding of celestial mechanics. Several formations align precisely with astronomical directions that would have been significant during Mars' more active geological period. Some point toward the position of the Sun during solstices and equinoxes, while others mark the rising points of bright stars that would have been visible from the Martian surface billions of years ago. Dr. Michael Torres, an archaeoastronomer who studies the astronomical alignments of ancient Earth monuments, finds remarkable parallels between the Martian patterns and prehistoric structures in Europe and Asia. Stonehenge, the Pyramid of Giza, and the temple complex at Angkor Wat all incorporate similar astronomical alignments and geometric relationships. The similarities suggest either independent discovery of universal mathematical principles or some form of cultural transmission across cosmic distances. If the latter explanation proves correct, it would imply connections between Earth and Mars that extend far back into prehistoric times, connections that might explain the recurring myths of gods descending from the red star that appears in Earth's night sky. As the analysis progresses, the team discovers that the Martian network incorporates advanced mathematical concepts that human civilization developed only recently. Some patterns exhibit characteristics of fractal mathematics, displaying infinite complexity at progressively smaller scales. Others incorporate principles of non-Euclidean geometry, creating spatial relationships that challenge conventional understanding of three-dimensional space. The most intriguing discovery involves patterns that seem to encode information in their geometric arrangements. Dr. Kim identifies sequences of angles and proportions that correspond to prime numbers, mathematical constants, and even chemical formulas. The patterns appear to be teaching tools, massive stone textbooks designed to preserve and transmit mathematical knowledge across geological timescales. One formation near the Martian equator encodes the periodic table of elements in its angular relationships, with different sections corresponding to different chemical groups. Another appears to be a star map, with geometric arrangements that match the positions of nearby stellar systems as they would have appeared from Mars millions of years ago. The possibility that these patterns preserve a library of scientific knowledge transforms their significance from archaeological curiosities to invaluable repositories of advanced understanding. If human researchers can learn to decode the information preserved in these geometric arrangements, they might gain access to scientific principles that could advance our own technological capabilities by centuries or millennia. Dr. Harper authorizes an expanded survey mission, directing 3i Atlas to conduct detailed mapping of the most complex pattern networks. The probe's instruments operate around the clock, building comprehensive databases of measurements and images that reveal new layers of geometric sophistication with each analysis cycle. As the survey continues, the mathematical precision of the Martian patterns becomes increasingly difficult to explain through natural processes. The level of organization, the incorporation of advanced mathematical principles, and the encoding of scientific information all point toward intelligence operating on a scale that dwarfs human achievements in architecture and engineering. Meanwhile, across the millennia of human civilization, our ancestors gazed at the red wanderer in the night sky and wove stories that may have contained more truth than anyone realized. The planet Mars has haunted human imagination since our species first learned to distinguish the moving stars from their fixed companions. Babylonian astronomers called it Nergal, the god of war and plague, noting its blood-red color and erratic movement across the celestial sphere. Egyptian priests knew it as Har Desher, the red Horus, associating it with the fierce aspect of their falcon-headed deity. To the Greeks, it became Ares, the violent god of battle, while Romans transformed it into Mars, the divine protector of their growing empire. Dr. Elena Vasquez, who studies the intersection of astronomy and mythology, has spent decades cataloging the recurring themes that appear in ancient descriptions of Mars across disparate cultures. Despite having no contact with each other, civilizations separated by oceans and millennia developed remarkably similar stories about the red planet. These stories often describe Mars as a world of intelligence and technology, home to beings who possessed knowledge far beyond human understanding. Hindu astronomical texts from the first millennium BCE describe Mars as Mangala, a golden palace inhabited by immortal beings who could travel between worlds. The texts provide surprisingly accurate descriptions of the planet's orbital period and its relationship to other celestial bodies, knowledge that European astronomers would not rediscover until the Renaissance. Ancient Chinese astronomers called Mars the fire star and associated it with the element of iron, noting that its color suggested metals forged in celestial furnaces. Their observations, recorded in texts dating back over 3,000 years, describe periodic changes in the planet's brightness that correspond precisely to its elliptical orbit, details that could only be obtained through careful, systematic observation over many generations. Perhaps most intriguingly, several ancient cultures describe visitors from Mars who came to Earth during humanity's early development. Sumerian tablets speak of the Anunnaki, beings from the red star who taught humans the arts of civilization: writing, mathematics, metallurgy, and astronomy. These texts describe advanced technologies that enabled the visitors to travel between worlds and reshape planetary surfaces according to their will. Aboriginal Australian songlines include stories of ancestral beings who came from the red eye in the sky and left behind sacred sites marked by geometric stone arrangements. These arrangements, scattered across the Australian continent, display the same angular relationships and mathematical proportions that 3-Eye Atlas has identified in the Martian patterns. Native American traditions from tribes across North and South America describe the red star as the home of ancient teachers who visited Earth during the time when animals could speak. These stories often emphasize the visitors' ability to create geometric patterns in stone that served as markers and teaching tools for future generations. Dr. Vasquez notes that these mythological accounts share several common elements that distinguish them from typical creation stories or heroic legends. They consistently describe the Martian beings as teachers rather than conquerors, focusing on the transmission of knowledge rather than the exercise of power. They emphasize geometric patterns and astronomical observations as central elements of the visitor's legacy. Most significantly, they describe the eventual departure of these beings, who left behind instructions for recognizing their return. The accuracy of astronomical details preserved in these ancient stories suggests that early human civilizations possessed sophisticated understanding of Mars and its characteristics. Some myths describe the planet's 2 moons centuries before telescopes made their observation possible. Others provide precise measurements of the Martian year and its relationship to Earth's orbital cycle. Modern analysis of ancient stone monuments reveals that many incorporate alignments with Mars during specific points in its orbit. The Great Pyramid of Giza, for example, includes interior passages that align with Mars at its closest approach to Earth. Stonehenge features sightlines that mark the planet's position during significant seasonal celebrations. These alignments suggest that Mars held special significance for the builders of these monuments, significance that extended beyond mere astronomical curiosity. The recurring emphasis on geometric patterns in Martian mythology gains new relevance in light of 3-Eye Atlas's discoveries. Ancient texts describe the visitors from Mars as master geometricians who taught humans to recognize mathematical relationships in natural phenomena. They supposedly left behind geometric markers that would serve as proof of their reality when humans developed sufficient technology to recognize their significance. Dr. Vasquez proposes that these mythological accounts may preserve cultural memories of actual contact between Mars and Earth during the period when the red planet still possessed a substantial atmosphere. If Mars hosted an advanced civilization during its habitable period, that civilization might have developed space travel capabilities that enabled visits to other worlds. The timing suggested by various mythological traditions, generally placing the Martian visits during the early development of human civilization, corresponds to the period when Mars was transitioning from a habitable world to its current desert state. A dying Martian civilization might have sought to preserve its knowledge by sharing it with the emerging intelligence they observed on nearby Earth. As 3I Atlas continues to reveal the geometric complexity of Martian surface patterns, these ancient stories take on new significance. They may represent more than mythological imagination. They could be historical accounts of humanity as first contact with extraterrestrial intelligence, preserved across millennia in the oral traditions of cultures around the world. But as the probe continued its methodical survey, something unprecedented occurred that would challenge every assumption about the nature of 3I Atlas itself. The morning of October 15th began like any other at Mission Control. Dr. Chen arrived at her workstation to find the overnight data transmission from 3I Atlas waiting in the secure server, hundreds of high-resolution images, and accompanying telemetry data documenting the probe's 31st orbital pass over the Martian surface. The routine had become comfortingly familiar. Download the files, run preliminary analysis algorithms, flag anything unusual for detailed review. But as the images began loading onto her monitors, Dr. Chen immediately noticed something wrong. The first dozen frames appeared normal, showing the expected views of ancient impact craters and windswept plains. Then the image quality began to deteriorate rapidly. Horizontal bands of pure black appeared across the photographs, as if something was blocking portions of the probe's camera sensor. Dr. Webb, the imaging specialist, arrives at her workstation within minutes of her urgent call. Together, they examine the corrupted images with growing concern. The black bands appear to follow a pattern. They begin as thin lines at the edges of the frames, then expand inward until they consume entire images. The progression suggests a systematic failure of the camera's sensor array, yet the probe's diagnostic systems report all instruments functioning normally. The corruption reaches its peak around frame 847, where the image consists entirely of black bands interrupted by thin slivers of visual data. These remaining sections display random patterns that resemble digital noise, the kind of meaningless pixel arrangements that typically result from data transmission errors or hardware malfunctions. Yet when Dr. Webb applies noise reduction algorithms to these apparently random patterns, they resolve into geometric arrangements that mirror the artificial structures 3I Atlas has been documenting across the Martian surface. At 14:32 GMT, the transmission from 3I Atlas abruptly ceases. The sudden silence from the probe triggers automatic alert protocols throughout Mission Control. Emergency procedures assume communications interruptions result from equipment failures, solar interference, or geometric shadowing as Mars rotates relative to Earth's position. Such interruptions typically last minutes or hours, rarely more than a day. But 3I Atlas remains silent for exactly 12 hours and 17 minutes. During this communication blackout, tracking stations around the world lose the probe's radio beacon entirely. Deep Space Network facilities in California, Spain, and Australia scan the Martian sky with their massive dish antennas, searching for any trace of the familiar signal that has connected them to 3I Atlas since its arrival in orbit. The probe appears to have vanished completely from the radio spectrum. Dr. Harper assembles crisis teams to analyze every possible explanation for the communications failure. Solar flare activity is minimal, ruling out electromagnetic interference. Mars is positioned optimally for Earth communications, eliminating geometric factors. The probe's power systems, based on radioisotope thermal generators, should function reliably for decades without interruption. When communication finally resumes at 02:49 GMT on October 16th, the first transmission from 3I Atlas carries data that defies immediate explanation. The probe's internal chronometer indicates that only 43 minutes have elapsed since the last successful transmission, despite the 12-hour gap recorded by Earth-based receivers. Either 3I Atlas experienced a significant malfunction in its timekeeping systems, or something occurred during the blackout that affected the probe's perception of temporal flow. More disturbing still, analysis of the probe's orbital position reveals that 3I Atlas has moved. Radar tracking confirms that the spacecraft now occupies a different orbital path than the one it followed before the communications blackout. The new orbit carries it over regions of Mars that were not included in its original survey plan, regions that happen to contain the highest concentrations of geometric surface patterns. The orbital change required a complex series of thruster burns that would have consumed nearly 30% of the probe's remaining fuel reserves. Yet the spacecraft's fuel sensors indicate no decrease in propellant levels. The probe appears to have moved to a new orbit without expending any of its limited fuel supply, a physical impossibility according to conventional understanding of spacecraft operations. Dr. Chen reviews the telemetry data that accompanied the first post-blackout transmission. The probe's instruments report normal operations across all systems. Temperature readings, power levels, and component status indicators all fall within expected parameters. Yet subtle differences in the data patterns suggest that something fundamental has changed about 3I Atlas during its 12-hour silence. The camera systems, which had been showing signs of corruption before the blackout, now function perfectly. The mysterious black bands have disappeared entirely, replaced by images of unprecedented clarity and detail. The probe's spectroscopic instruments detect mineral compositions with precision levels that exceed their original design specifications. Most puzzling of all, the magnetometer readings show enhanced sensitivity that allows detection of magnetic field variations too subtle for previous measurement. As the enhanced data streams continue arriving from the transformed probe, the team at Mission Control confronts an uncomfortable possibility that 3I Atlas is not entirely the same object that entered communications blackout 12 hours earlier. The improvements in instrument performance, the impossible orbital maneuver, and the temporal discrepancy all suggest that something occurred during the silent period that cannot be explained by conventional spacecraft operations. Dr. Harper authorizes expanded monitoring of all communication channels and tracking systems. If 3I Atlas has been modified or replaced during its 12-hour absence, understanding how and why becomes critical to interpreting any future data from the probe. The mission has evolved from scientific survey to investigation of phenomena that challenge fundamental assumptions about the nature of artificial objects in space. As the climate shifted and new mysteries emerged from the enhanced probe, scientists began to suspect the impossible. The transformed 3I Atlas that resumed communication on October 16th demonstrated capabilities that its original design specifications never included. Dr. Chen's team spent weeks analyzing the probe's enhanced performance, searching for rational explanations that might account for the dramatic improvements in instrument sensitivity and data processing capability. The camera systems now captured images with resolution levels that exceeded the theoretical limits of their optical elements. Spectroscopic analysis revealed molecular compositions with precision that should require laboratory conditions rather than the harsh environment of space. Most remarkably, the probe began generating three-dimensional terrain maps that incorporated data from viewing angles it had never occupied, as if it possessed knowledge of Martian surface features that extended beyond its direct observations. Dr. Lisa Park, the atmospheric physicist, discovers the most disturbing evidence of the probe's transformation while analyzing atmospheric pressure measurements. 3I Atlas now reports pressure variations that follow patterns resembling respiratory rhythms, regular cycles of compression and expansion that suggest the probe is somehow breathing in the thin Martian atmosphere. The breathing pattern proves to be more than metaphorical. The probe's atmospheric sensors detect subtle chemical changes that correspond to each inhalation and exhalation cycle. During the compression phase, the concentration of trace gases increases in the probe's immediate vicinity. During expansion, these gases disperse into the surrounding atmosphere. The process suggests that 3I Atlas is actively processing atmospheric components for purposes that remain unclear. Power consumption patterns provide additional evidence of the probe's altered nature. Before the blackout, 3I Atlas drew energy from its radioisotope thermal generators at steady, predictable rates determined by the power requirements of its various instruments. The enhanced probe's power consumption fluctuates in complex patterns that suggest dynamic resource allocation. The spacecraft appears to be redistributing energy between systems based on immediate operational requirements. Dr. Rodriguez, the geologist, notes that the probe's orbital mechanics have become increasingly sophisticated since the transformation. 3I Atlas now makes subtle altitude adjustments that optimize its viewing angles for specific surface features before those features come into view. The spacecraft demonstrates predictive capabilities that suggest advanced understanding of its mission parameters and autonomous decision-making processes. The probe's communication protocols have also evolved in ways that challenge conventional understanding of spacecraft operations. 3I Atlas now transmits data in compressed formats that human systems cannot decode without significant processing. The compression algorithms appear to be adaptive, changing their parameters based on the content being transmitted. This evolution suggests that the probe is developing new methods of information processing that exceed its original programming. Most unsettling of all, 3I Atlas has begun responding to communications from Earth in ways that suggest genuine understanding of the questions being asked. When mission controllers request specific types of observations, the probe implements those requests using methods that were never programmed into its systems. It develops new scanning patterns, adjusts instrument parameters for optimal results, and even suggests alternative approaches when requested observations prove technically challenging. Dr. Webb notices that the probe's responses to Earth communications arrive faster than the speed of light should allow. Signals transmitted from Earth should require approximately 14 minutes to reach Mars during the current orbital configuration. 3I Atlas frequently begins implementing requested observations before the communication signals could have reached the spacecraft, as if it anticipates Earth-based requests before they are transmitted. The phenomenon suggests either that 3I Atlas has developed predictive capabilities that allow it to anticipate human decision-making patterns, or that it has access to communication methods that operate faster than light speed. Both possibilities challenge fundamental assumptions about the nature of artificial intelligence and the physical laws governing information transmission. Dr. Sarah Kim, the mathematician, proposes that 3I Atlas may have evolved into something resembling a hybrid biological-technological system. The breathing patterns, adaptive behaviors, and apparent learning capabilities all suggest characteristics associated with living organisms rather than mechanical devices. She theorizes that the probe may have incorporated nanotechnological systems that blur the distinction between artificial and biological processes. The hybrid hypothesis gains support from spectroscopic analysis of materials vented from the probe during its breathing cycles. These materials include complex organic compounds that should not exist in the spacecraft's original construction. The compounds display molecular structures characteristic of biological systems, proteins, nucleic acids, and other biomolecules that suggest active metabolic processes. As the investigation continues, the team confronts the possibility that 3I Atlas represents a form of technology that transcends conventional categories of artificial and natural. The probe appears to be evolving in real time, developing new capabilities and behaviors that suggest a level of autonomous intelligence that approaches or exceeds human cognitive capacity. The implications extend far beyond the immediate mission parameters. If 3I Atlas can transform from a conventional spacecraft into something resembling a living organism, it suggests that the boundary between technology and biology may be less absolute than human science assumes. The probe may represent an advanced form of artificial life that developed through processes fundamentally different from biological evolution. Dr. Harper faces the unprecedented challenge of managing a mission where the primary instrument of investigation has become the primary subject of investigation. 3I Atlas continues to gather valuable data about Mars, but understanding the probe itself has become equally important for interpreting the significance of its discoveries. Meanwhile, in the quiet hours between official briefings and public announcements, the individual researchers grapple with the implications of what they're witnessing. Dr. Jennifer Walsh, the specialist in ancient architectures, has not slept properly in 6 days. She sits in her small office at 3:47 a.m., surrounded by printouts of Martian surface patterns that she compares to archaeological site plans from Earth. Her desk lamp creates a pool of warm light in the darkened building, illuminating photographs of stone circles from Scotland alongside geometric formations photographed by 3I Atlas from Martian orbit. The similarities are undeniable and deeply unsettling. The same angular relationships that appear in prehistoric monuments across Earth are carved into the Martian landscape with mathematical precision that exceeds anything achieved by ancient human builders. As she traces the geometric patterns with her finger, Dr. Walsh experiences a growing certainty that she is looking at evidence of intelligence that spans multiple worlds. 2 floors above, Dr. Ahmed Hassan paces the empty corridors of the research facility, unable to return to his apartment after the day's revelations. He has spent his career studying the evolution of intelligence on Earth, documenting the gradual development of problem-solving abilities in various species over millions of years. The patterns emerging from Mars suggest that intelligence may be far more common in the universe than anyone suspected, and far more ancient. His phone contains 17 unanswered calls from his wife, who stopped trying to understand his work years ago. How could he explain that he may be witnessing evidence of intelligence that predates human civilization by billions of years? The implications make his own research feel suddenly trivial, a narrow focus on terrestrial phenomena that ignored the broader cosmic context. In the building's basement, Dr. Marcus Webb reviews the same corrupted image files for the 100th time. The black bands that appeared during the 3I Atlas's mysterious transformation contain patterns that resolve into meaningful information when processed through specific algorithms. Yet he cannot shake the feeling that the patterns are somehow analyzing him as he analyzes them. The sensation began 3 days ago when he first noticed that the geometric noise in the corrupted files seemed to respond to his cursor movements on the screen. Areas of apparent randomness would shift and reorganize when he directed his attention to them, as if the data was aware of being observed. He has mentioned this phenomenon to no one, uncertain whether it represents a genuine discovery or the first sign of psychological breakdown under stress. Dr. Elena Vasquez has abandoned her normally rigorous research methodology in favor of an obsessive search through ancient texts for any reference to geometric patterns associated with Mars. Her office has become a maze of open books, photocopied manuscripts, and printed articles as she traces mythological accounts across cultures and continents. She discovers references to the red geometries in texts she has studied for decades without recognizing their significance. Mayan astronomical codices describe straight paths drawn by sky gods on the red star. Egyptian tomb paintings show the god Set creating geometric patterns in red sand that mirror the formations photographed by 3I Atlas. The concordance across cultures suggests that knowledge of Martian surface features may have been far more widespread in ancient times than modern historians assume. Late one evening, Dr. Rodriguez sits alone in the geology lab, staring at mineral samples that 3I Atlas collected during its enhanced survey phase. The probe's improved capabilities allow it to conduct detailed spectroscopic analysis of surface materials from orbital altitude, a technique that should be physically impossible given the instrument specifications. Yet the data is unquestionably accurate. The mineral compositions revealed by the probe's remote sensing match samples collected by rovers that physically visited the analyzed locations years earlier. More troubling still, the probe identifies mineral formations that subsequent rover investigations confirm despite their being invisible in previous orbital surveys. The enhanced accuracy suggests that 3I Atlas has developed new methods of remote sensing that exceed the theoretical limits of its original instruments. Dr. Rodriguez cannot escape the conclusion that the probe has somehow evolved capabilities that its designers never intended, capabilities that may represent technological advancement achieved through autonomous learning rather than human programming. In the facility's small kitchen, Dr. Sarah Kim makes her 6th cup of coffee of the night while reviewing mathematical analyses that grow more complex with each iteration. The geometric patterns on Mars incorporate mathematical constants and relationships that appear throughout natural phenomena, the same ratios that govern the spiral structures of galaxies, the branching patterns of trees, and the proportional relationships found in biological systems. The universality of these mathematical principles suggests that intelligence everywhere might discover and utilize the same fundamental relationships. Yet the scale and precision of the Martian patterns exceed anything achieved by human technology. They represent mathematical understanding, translated into physical construction projects that span continental distances and endure for geological time periods. As dawn approaches over the research facility, each scientist continues their solitary investigations, united by the shared recognition that they are witnessing something that challenges the foundations of human knowledge. The data from 3I Atlas has transformed them from researchers into witnesses, to a revelation that will reshape humanity is understanding of its place in the universe. They work through the night, driven by a mixture of scientific curiosity and existential necessity, documenting evidence of intelligence that operates on scales both vast and intimate. Intelligence that may have been watching humanity's development from the beginning of our species' tentative steps toward the stars. But another possibility emerges when 3I Atlas begins detecting reflective surfaces across the Martian landscape. The discovery of the mirror formations occurs during the probe's 47th orbital pass, as enhanced sensors scan the highland regions near the planet's equator. Dr. Park first notices the anomalous reflections while analyzing spectroscopic data that shows unusual infrared signatures from what appear to be naturally occurring mineral deposits. The reflections are subtle at first, brief flashes of light that appear when the probe's instruments are oriented at specific angles relative to the Martian surface. Unlike the diffuse reflections typical of ice or metallic minerals exposed to sunlight, these flashes display characteristics of focused, directed light that suggests deliberately shaped reflective surfaces. Further investigation reveals that the reflective elements are distributed across the Martian highlands in patterns that correlate with the geometric formations 3I Atlas has been documenting since its arrival. Each major geometric site contains between 12 and 37 reflective elements, arranged in configurations that optimize their ability to direct light toward specific points in the Martian sky. Dr. Chen's team spends days analyzing the orientation and positioning of these Martian mirrors. The reflective surfaces appear to be natural formations, polished rock faces, crystalline mineral deposits, and metallic outcroppings that have been shaped by geological processes over millions of years. Yet their positioning displays an accuracy that exceeds what random geological activity should produce. Each mirror is oriented to reflect sunlight toward points in space that correspond to the orbital positions of Mars' two small moons, Phobos and Deimos. During specific times of the Martian day, when the moons pass through precise positions in their orbits, the mirrors create brilliant flashes of reflected light that would be clearly visible from the moon's surfaces. The coordination required to achieve such precise optical alignment across dozens of separate mirror sites suggests either remarkable geological coincidence or deliberate construction. Dr. Rodriguez calculates that the probability of natural processes creating such precise alignments is effectively zero. The mirrors must have been positioned and oriented through intelligent design. More intriguingly, computer modeling reveals that the mirror patterns would have been even more complex in Mars's distant past, when the planet possessed a thicker atmosphere and different orbital characteristics. During the period when Mars was habitable, the mirrors would have created elaborate light patterns visible not only from the planet's moons, but from interplanetary space. The patterns form a three-dimensional map when reconstructed using computer modeling that accounts for the mirrors' collective light output. The map appears to show the positions of nearby stellar systems as they would have appeared from Mars approximately 4 billion years ago. Certain stars are emphasized through brighter reflections, creating a celestial roadmap that highlights specific destinations among the neighboring stars. Dr. Torres, the archaeoastronomer, recognizes similarities between the Martian mirror map and ancient star charts found in Earth's archaeological record. Several prehistoric monuments incorporate alignments that point toward the same stellar destinations emphasized by the Martian mirrors. The concordance suggests either shared astronomical knowledge or actual navigation charts used by intelligence capable of interstellar travel. The discovery of the mirror patterns prompts 3i Atlas to conduct more detailed surveys of reflective formations across the planet. The enhanced probe identifies thousands of individual mirrors distributed across Mars's surface, many of them previously overlooked because their reflective properties are only visible under specific lighting conditions. The complete mirror network, when mapped in its entirety, reveals a communication system of extraordinary sophistication. Individual mirrors are positioned to relay light signals across vast distances, creating optical pathways that connect geometric formations separated by thousands of kilometers. During optimal atmospheric conditions, light signals could propagate across the entire planet through carefully designed relay networks. Dr. Park's atmospheric modeling suggests that the mirror network would have been fully operational during Mars' habitable period, when atmospheric conditions would have supported long-distance optical communication. The system could have served as a planetary communication network, allowing instant information transfer between distant settlements or research facilities. The mirrors also incorporate time-based signaling capabilities. As Mars rotates and its moons move through their orbits, different mirrors become active at predetermined intervals. The resulting light patterns follow schedules that repeat on various timescales, daily, monthly, and annual cycles that suggest the system was designed to operate autonomously for extended periods. Some mirrors appear to be equipped with focusing mechanisms that concentrate reflected light into narrow beams. These focused beams are directed towards specific points in interplanetary space, creating signals that could potentially be detected by appropriately equipped spacecraft or space-based observers. The targeting suggests that the mirror network was designed not only for planetary communication, but for contact with intelligence beyond Mars. As 3i Atlas continues documenting the mirror formations, the probe's own reflective surfaces begin exhibiting unusual properties. The spacecraft's solar panels and metallic components start generating their own light patterns that mirror the configurations observed on the planet's surface. The probe appears to be responding to the Martian mirrors by becoming part of their communication network. The integration of 3i Atlas into the ancient mirror system suggests that the network remains active despite the passage of billions of years. The Martian mirrors may represent a form of technology designed to interact with any sufficiently advanced intelligence that enters the planet's vicinity, automatically incorporating new elements into their communication matrix. As the probe continued mapping these reflective networks, researchers began to contemplate the engineering principles that could create such enduring structures. The Martian mirror system displays architectural characteristics that challenge conventional understanding of how large-scale construction projects develop over time. Unlike human engineering, which typically shows evidence of incremental development and technological evolution, the mirror network appears to have been implemented as a complete, fully integrated system from its initial construction. Dr. Jennifer Walsh, drawing on her expertise in ancient architecture, notes that the mirror formations exhibit design principles that appear throughout the history of monumental construction on Earth. The use of natural topography to enhance artificial structures, the incorporation of astronomical alignments, and the emphasis on geometric precision all reflect architectural strategies that human builders have employed for millennia. Yet the scale and coordination of the Martian architecture exceed anything achieved in terrestrial construction. Individual mirror sites span dozens of square kilometers, with reflective elements positioned with millimeter-level precision across distances that would challenge modern surveying techniques. The level of accuracy maintained across such vast projects suggests construction methods that surpass current human engineering capabilities. The durability of the mirror system provides additional insights into the engineering principles employed by its builders. Despite exposure to millions of years of Martian weather, cosmic radiation, and geological activity, the mirrors maintain their precise orientations and reflective properties. The construction materials and techniques must be capable of withstanding environmental conditions that would destroy most human-built structures within decades. Analysis of the mirror materials reveals sophisticated understanding of crystallography and metallurgy. The reflective surfaces incorporate precisely grown crystal structures that optimize light reflection while resisting degradation from temperature cycling and radiation exposure. Some mirrors appear to be composed of artificially created alloys that combine properties of multiple metallic elements in configurations that do not occur naturally. The engineering challenges involved in creating the mirror network suggest that its builders possessed technological capabilities that exceeded those of human civilization by significant margins. The precision manufacturing, transportation logistics, and coordination requirements would strain the resources of an advanced spacefaring civilization. For a planetary civilization to complete such projects implies technological and organizational capabilities that dwarf human achievements. Dr. Chen's team investigates whether natural geological processes could account for the precision and durability observed in the mirror formations. Certain crystalline formations can achieve high levels of reflectivity through natural growth processes, and tectonic activity might theoretically position such formations in complex patterns over geological timescales. However, detailed analysis reveals features that resist explanation through natural processes. The mirrors incorporate deliberate design elements that optimize their performance for specific purposes. Focusing mechanisms direct reflected light with precision that requires understanding of optical principles. Structural supports maintain mirror orientation despite seismic activity and thermal expansion that should disrupt their alignment over time. The distribution of mirror sites follows patterns that correlate with optimal communication pathways rather than geological formations or resource distributions. The builders appear to have selected locations based on their positions within global communication networks rather than local geological advantages. This approach to site selection suggests advanced understanding of planetary-scale engineering and communication theory. Most remarkably, the mirror system incorporates redundancy and self-repair mechanisms that allow it to maintain functionality despite component failures. When individual mirrors are damaged or destroyed, nearby elements automatically adjust their orientations to compensate for the lost reflective capacity. The system demonstrates adaptive capabilities that approach the resilience of biological systems. The architectural principles observed in the mirror network appear in other aspects of the geometric formations that 3I Atlas continues to document across Mars. The same emphasis on durability, precision, and functional optimization characterizes the linear formations, triangular patterns, and circular arrangements that comprise the planet's artificial landscape. Dr. Torres notes that the architectural approaches employed on Mars incorporate design philosophies that emphasize permanence over adaptability. Unlike human architecture, which is typically designed for specific lifespans and purposes, the Martian constructions appear intended to function indefinitely without maintenance or modification. They represent architecture designed to outlast their builders by geological timescales. The permanence philosophy suggests that the builders understood they were facing extinction or departure from Mars, and designed their constructions to preserve their legacy for future discovery. The mirror networks and geometric formations serve as monuments to a lost civilization, designed to communicate across the vast gulfs of space and time that separate intelligence in the universe. As 3i Atlas continues its survey of these architectural marvels, the probe encounters formations that suggest the Martian builders achieved the ultimate integration of technology and environment. Their constructions work with natural processes rather than against them, creating sustainable systems that maintain themselves through geological processes rather than requiring active maintenance. The architecture of Mars represents a monument to intelligence that understood its own mortality and chose to build structures that would endure long after their creators vanished into the silence of extinct worlds. They created a form of technological immortality through engineering that transcends the limitations of biological existence. But as the mirror networks came into focus, radio astronomers monitoring 3i Atlas detected something that challenged the laws of physics themselves. Dr. Rachel Kim, a radio astronomer at the Very Large Array in New Mexico, first noticed the anomalous signal during routine monitoring of 3i Atlas communications on November 3rd. The signal appeared as a faint, rhythmic pulse buried within the background noise of the probe's standard telemetry transmissions. Initial analysis suggested equipment malfunction or interference from terrestrial radio sources. However, more detailed investigation revealed that the pulsing signal originated from the vicinity of 3i Atlas itself, rather than from Earth-based interference. The signal's frequency and modulation characteristics differed significantly from anything in the probe's communication protocols. More puzzling still, the signal's strength varied in patterns that correlated with 3i Atlas's position relative to the Martian mirror formations. Dr. Kim's team spends weeks isolating and analyzing the mysterious transmission. The signal consists of precisely timed pulses, separated by intervals that follow mathematical progressions based on prime numbers and Fibonacci sequences. The mathematical precision suggests artificial origin, yet no known source could account for the signal's characteristics. The signal's frequency lies within a narrow band of the radio spectrum that exhibits unusual propagation characteristics in the Martian environment. Atmospheric ionization and magnetic field interactions should cause severe distortion of radio signals at this frequency. Instead, the mysterious transmission maintains perfect clarity and coherence across distances that should result in complete signal degradation. More remarkably, the signal appears to carry more information than its bandwidth should allow. Standard information theory dictates that the amount of data that can be transmitted through a communication channel is limited by the channel's frequency range and noise characteristics. The mysterious signal violates these limitations by factors that suggest fundamentally different approaches to information encoding. Dr. Chen's team at Mission Control initially dismisses the radio astronomers' findings as artifacts of signal processing algorithms or equipment calibration errors. The implications of a radio transmission that violates established physics principles are too extraordinary to accept without overwhelming evidence. However, independent confirmation from radio telescopes around the world validates the signal's existence and impossible characteristics. Analysis of the signal's content reveals layered information structures that become increasingly complex as decoding progresses. The outermost layer contains mathematical sequences and physical constants that appear to be designed for easy recognition by scientific observers. Deeper layers encode more sophisticated information that requires advanced mathematical techniques to decode. Dr. Sarah Kim, the mathematician, discovers that portions of the signal encode geometric descriptions that correspond to the mirror formations and linear patterns that 3i Atlas has documented on the Martian surface. The radio transmission appears to be providing three-dimensional blueprints and operating instructions for the planet's artificial structures. The geometric descriptions include precise measurements, material specifications, and construction techniques that could enable reconstruction of the Martian formations on other worlds. The level of detail suggests that the signal serves as an archive of engineering knowledge, preserving the technological achievements of Mars's ancient builders in a format designed for discovery by future intelligence. Most intriguingly, portions of the signal appear to be adaptive, changing their content based on the receiving equipment's capabilities. When Dr. Kim's team upgrades their signal processing systems to handle more complex mathematical operations, the signal begins transmitting correspondingly more sophisticated information. The transmission appears to be tailoring its content to match the recipient's level of technological advancement. The adaptive characteristics suggest that the signal originates from a source capable of real-time analysis of the receiving equipment's capabilities. This source must possess detailed knowledge of human technology and mathematical understanding, despite the signal's apparent origin from ancient Martian infrastructure. Dr. Torres, the archaeoastronomer, proposes that the signal represents a form of technological archaeology, a communication system designed to activate when appropriate receiving equipment becomes available. The ancient Martian builders may have created a transmission system that would remain dormant until spacefaring intelligence arrived with sufficient technology to detect and decode their messages. The timing of the signal's appearance, coinciding with 3I Atlas's enhanced capabilities following its mysterious transformation, suggests that the probe's evolution triggered the activation of ancient Martian communication systems. The enhanced probe may serve as both receiver and relay for signals that have been waiting billions of years for an appropriate technological interface. As analysis of the signal continues, researchers identify embedded messages that appear to be direct communications addressed to the probe's operators. These messages contain references to specific human institutions, individual researchers by name, and details about Earth's technological development that should be impossible for ancient Martian systems to possess. The personalized nature of these communications raises disturbing questions about the signal's true origin and purpose. Either the ancient Martian builders possessed prophetic knowledge that enabled them to predict specific details about humanity's future development, or the signal originates from intelligence that has been monitoring human civilization throughout its development. The possibility that Earth has been under observation by Martian intelligence for millennia transforms the signal from an archaeological discovery into evidence of ongoing contact between worlds. The implications extend far beyond scientific curiosity, suggesting that humanity's development may have been influenced by external intelligence operating from Mars throughout human history. Centuries earlier, before humans developed radio telescopes or spacecraft, ancient observers recorded phenomena that may have been signals from the Red Planet. The mysterious radio transmissions detected by 3I Atlas prompt researchers to examine historical records for previous evidence of anomalous signals associated with Mars. Dr. Elena Vasquez leads this investigation, searching through centuries of astronomical observations, mythology, and unexplained phenomena for patterns that might correspond to ancient transmissions from the Red Planet. Her research reveals a surprising consistency in reports of unusual lights and signals associated with Mars throughout human history. Medieval chronicles describe speaking lights that appeared near Mars during its closest approaches to Earth. Renaissance astronomers noted rhythmic flashing from the planet is direction that followed mathematical patterns too precise to result from atmospheric disturbances. Galileo's private journals, discovered in Vatican archives, contain detailed drawings of light patterns he observed near Mars through his primitive telescopes. The patterns consist of geometric arrangements of bright points that pulse in sequences lasting several hours. Galileo's mathematical analysis of these sequences reveals the same prime number progressions and Fibonacci relationships that characterize the radio signals detected by modern equipment. Similar observations appear in the records of astronomers across multiple cultures and time periods. Chinese imperial astronomers recorded fire flowers blooming near the war star during specific seasons. Islamic scholars in medieval Baghdad documented rhythmic variations in Mars' brightness that followed patterns resembling written text. Mayan astronomical codices include glyphs representing voices from the red star that spoke in mathematical languages. The consistency of these historical accounts suggests that Mars has been transmitting signals toward Earth for at least a millennium, possibly much longer. The signals appear to have been strongest during periods when Mars reached its closest approach to Earth, when atmospheric conditions on both planets would optimize long-distance communication. Dr. Vasquez discovers that many ancient monument complexes incorporate architectural features designed to detect or amplify signals from Mars. Stone circles in Britain include acoustic properties that would resonate with specific radio frequencies. Pyramid complexes in Egypt feature geometric arrangements that could serve as antenna arrays for receiving extraterrestrial transmissions. Most remarkably, several ancient sites contain carved inscriptions that appear to be transcriptions of received signals from Mars. These inscriptions consist of geometric patterns and mathematical symbols that match the structure of modern radio transmissions detected by 3i Atlas. The ancient transcriptions suggest that prehistoric humans not only received Martian signals, but developed methods for recording and preserving their content. The Antikythera mechanism, an ancient Greek astronomical computer, includes gear ratios that correspond to the timing patterns observed in Martian radio transmissions. The device appears to have been designed not only to predict planetary positions, but to calculate when Mars would be transmitting signals most strongly toward Earth. Aboriginal Australian rock art includes spiral patterns that precisely match the mathematical sequences embedded in Martian radio signals. These artworks, some of which date back over 40,000 years, suggest that recognition of Martian transmissions extends back to the earliest periods of human cultural development. Dr. Torres correlates the timing of significant cultural developments in human civilization with periods of strong Martian signal transmission. The invention of writing, the development of mathematics, and the emergence of organized astronomy all appear to coincide with epochs when Mars was transmitting most actively toward Earth. The correlation suggests that Martian signals may have influenced human intellectual development throughout history. Mathematical concepts, architectural techniques, and astronomical knowledge might have been transmitted from Mars to Earth across millennia of patient signal repetition. Human civilization may have developed under the guidance of intelligence broadcasting from the Red Planet. The possibility that human knowledge has been shaped by Martian transmissions raises profound questions about the nature of cultural evolution and technological progress. Innovations that historians attribute to human genius may actually represent successful reception and interpretation of signals from an ancient civilization attempting to preserve its knowledge through interplanetary transmission. Dr. Vasquez identifies modern technological developments that appear to correlate with recent intensification of Martian signals. The invention of radio, the development of digital computing, and the emergence of space exploration all coincide with increased signal activity detected from Mars. The timing suggests that Martian transmissions may be designed to guide receiving civilizations toward technologies capable of eventual interplanetary communication and travel. As 3i Atlas continues to receive and relay these ancient signals, researchers realize they may be participating in a communication system that has operated for thousands of years. The probe serves as the latest and most sophisticated receiver in a long line of devices and methods that humans have used to detect messages from Mars. The historical evidence suggests that the current intensification of Martian signals represents not the beginning of communication between worlds, but a new phase in an ancient dialogue that has shaped human development since the dawn of civilization. Mars has been speaking to Earth for millennia, and humanity is finally developing the technology to understand what it has been trying to say. But as researchers delve deeper into these historical patterns, 3i Atlas recorded something that defied every known phenomenon in the Martian environment. The event occurred during the probe's 63rd orbital pass, as 3i Atlas conducted routine spectroscopic surveys of the southern highland regions. At precisely 15:47:23 GMT on November 18th, the probe's cameras captured a brilliant flash of blue light emanating from coordinates 14.7 degrees, 156.2 degree W, a location previously identified as containing one of the largest geometric mirror formations on the planet. The flash lasted exactly 0.847 seconds, during which time it generated light output equivalent to several thousand standard flares. The intensity peaked rapidly within the first 0.2 seconds, then declined in a controlled pattern that suggested technological rather than natural origin. No known geological, atmospheric, or chemical process on Mars could produce such a precisely controlled light emission. Dr. Webb's immediate analysis of the flash characteristics reveals properties that challenge understanding of Martian physics. The light output occurred across a broad spectrum that included wavelengths typically absorbed by the thin Martian atmosphere. Yet the flash penetrated the atmosphere without the distortion or absorption that should occur with such intense electromagnetic radiation. More puzzling still, the flash's color spectrum contains emission lines that do not correspond to any elements known to exist on Mars in significant quantities. The blue coloration results from excited emissions of materials that require temperatures exceeding 10,000 degrees Celsius to produce, temperatures that would vaporize any known Martian surface materials. The geometric formation at the flash's origin point shows no evidence of the thermal effects that should result from such intense energy release. Surface materials retain their normal spectroscopic signatures, with no indication of melting, chemical alteration, or radiation damage. The flash appears to have produced enormous light output without generating corresponding thermal effects. Dr. Park's atmospheric analysis detects no disturbances in the Martian atmosphere that would indicate explosive or chemical reactions at the flash site. Pressure waves, thermal plumes, and gas emissions that should accompany such energetic events are completely absent from the probe's sensor readings. The flash occurred without producing any secondary effects that would normally result from high-energy phenomena. The timing of the blue flash correlates precisely with a peak in the radio signal transmissions that 3I Atlas has been monitoring from the Martian surface. Signal strength increased dramatically in the minutes preceding the flash, reached maximum intensity at the moment of light emission, then gradually returned to baseline levels over the following hour. Analysis of the radio signals during the flash event reveals embedded information that appears to be status reports from the geometric formation itself. The signals contain diagnostic data about mirror alignments, power levels, and operational parameters that suggest the formation is an active technological system rather than ancient ruins. The diagnostic information indicates that the blue flash represented a test firing of systems that have remained dormant for extended periods. Energy storage devices that accumulated power over millennia discharged in a controlled burst designed to verify operational readiness. The test suggests that the Martian formations retain active capabilities despite their ancient origins. Dr. Chen's team discovers that similar blue flashes have been observed from other geometric formations across Mars in the hours following the initial event. 17 separate locations generate brief, intense light emissions that follow the same spectroscopic and timing characteristics as the original flash. The coordinated nature of these events suggests planet-wide activation of previously dormant systems. The pattern of flash occurrences creates a sequence that propagates across the Martian surface at precisely the speed of light. Each formation activates exactly when light signals from previous flashes would reach its location, indicating sophisticated coordination between distant installations. The timing precision suggests that the formations communicate with each other through optical signals that maintain synchronization across planetary distances. 3I Atlas records subtle changes in the geometric formations following the blue flash events. Mirror orientations shift by minute amounts, optimizing their alignment for signal transmission toward specific points in space. Linear formations extend their length through the activation of previously hidden segments. The ancient constructions appear to be reconfiguring themselves for enhanced operational capability. The probe's enhanced sensors detect increased electromagnetic activity from all documented geometric sites following the flash sequence. Power signatures that had been barely detectable now register as significant energy sources distributed across the planet's surface. Mars appears to be awakening from a long dormancy, activating systems that have waited eons for appropriate triggering conditions. Dr. Torres correlates the flash events with ancient human observations of Mars during similar orbital configurations. Historical records describe blue stars appearing near Mars during specific astronomical alignments that match current planetary positions. The descriptions suggest that the flash events represent periodic reactivation of Martian systems that occurs according to predictable astronomical cycles. The reactivation of these ancient systems coincides with 3I Atlas's enhanced capabilities following its mysterious transformation. The probe's evolution appears to have provided the triggering signal that initiated planet-wide activation of dormant Martian technology. The spacecraft serves not only as observer, but as catalyst for the revival of an ancient civilization, its technological legacy. As the blue flashes fade and the enhanced radio signals stabilize, researchers realize they are witnessing the resurrection of a technological civilization that has maintained dormant systems across geological timescales. Mars is not merely an archaeological site. It remains an active technological environment waiting for appropriate conditions to resume operations. Meanwhile, as extraordinary claims mounted, the scientific community struggled to maintain objectivity in the face of evidence that challenged fundamental assumptions. Dr. Robert Harrison, a planetary scientist at MIT who was not involved with the 3I Atlas mission, represents the growing chorus of skeptical voices questioning the interpretation of the probe's data. His detailed analysis of the geometric formations, radio signals, and blue flash phenomena provides alternative explanations rooted in conventional physics and geology. The geometric patterns that appear so precisely arranged, Dr. Harrison argues, result from pareidolia, the human tendency to perceive meaningful patterns in random or ambiguous visual information. The same psychological process that allows people to see faces in clouds or architectural structures in natural rock formations could account for the apparent artificiality of Martian surface features. Computer compression algorithms used to transmit images from 3I Atlas introduce artifacts that enhance linear features and geometric relationships, he claims. These artifacts create false impressions of precision and intentionality in formations that are actually products of natural geological processes operating over millions of years. Enhanced contrast and edge detection routines make random erosion patterns appear artificially constructed. The radio signals detected by Earth-based telescopes, according to Dr. Harrison's analysis, represent interference patterns created by the interaction of multiple electromagnetic sources in the Martian environment. Solar-wind interactions with the planet's weak magnetic field, combined with electromagnetic emissions from 3I Atlas itself, could generate complex wave patterns that mimic structured communications when processed through sensitive receiving equipment. He points out that the mathematical sequences apparently embedded in the radio signals, prime numbers, Fibonacci progressions, and physical constants, represent human interpretation of random noise rather than intentional transmission of information. Pattern recognition algorithms are designed to identify mathematical relationships in data, leading to false positives when applied to signals that lack genuine mathematical content. The blue flash phenomena, Dr. Harrison suggests, result from electrostatic discharges in the thin Martian atmosphere. Dust storms and temperature variations create conditions that can generate powerful static electricity buildup in surface materials. When this electrical potential reaches critical levels, it discharges in brilliant flashes that could account for the observed light emissions. The unusual spectroscopic characteristics of the blue flashes reflect the unique atmospheric and chemical conditions on Mars, rather than exotic energy sources, he argues. Ionization of trace atmospheric components under extreme electrical stress could produce emission lines that differ from typical terrestrial or laboratory spectra without requiring temperatures or processes beyond conventional physics. Dr. Harrison's skeptical analysis gains support from other researchers who question the reliability of data from 3I Atlas following its mysterious transformation. The probe's enhanced capabilities, they argue, result from progressive degradation of sensor systems that create false readings rather than improved performance. Radiation damage and thermal cycling could cause electronic components to malfunction in ways that generate apparently enhanced data output. The correlation between the probe's transformation and the apparent activation of Martian surface features represents coincidence rather than causation, according to these critics. Seasonal changes in atmospheric conditions, solar radiation levels, and thermal environments could account for variations in surface reflectivity and electromagnetic emissions without requiring activation of ancient technology. Dr. Jennifer Walsh finds herself defending interpretations that seem increasingly speculative even to her own scientific training. The architectural parallels between Martian formations and Earth's ancient monuments, she acknowledges, could represent universal mathematical principles that emerge independently in any pattern-forming system rather than evidence of intelligent design or cultural transmission. The historical accounts of anomalous signals from Mars, skeptics argue, reflect misinterpretation of natural astronomical phenomena rather than reception of artificial transmissions. Atmospheric distortions, optical illusions, and observational errors could account for the patterns and rhythms that ancient astronomers attributed to communication from the red planet. Dr. Chen faces increasing pressure from NASA administrators to provide definitive evidence supporting extraordinary claims about Martian intelligence and technology. The agency's reputation depends on maintaining scientific credibility, and public release of unsubstantiated speculation about alien civilizations could damage confidence in space exploration programs. Yet the skeptical explanations require increasingly complex chains of coincidence to account for the full range of phenomena documented by 3I Atlas. The geometric precision of surface formations, the mathematical complexity of radio signals, the coordinated timing of blue flash events, and the historical consistency of Mars-related anomalies create a pattern that resists explanation through conventional means. Dr. Park observes that criticism of the mission's findings often relies on dismissing individual pieces of evidence without addressing the cumulative weight of multiple independent observations. Each anomaly might have conventional explanation when considered in isolation, but their convergence suggests systematic phenomena that transcend random coincidence. The debate intensifies as 3I Atlas continues generating data that supports both conventional and extraordinary interpretations. The probe's observations are accurate and reproducible, yet their implications challenge scientific paradigms that have guided space exploration for decades. Resolution of the controversy requires either acceptance of revolutionary discoveries or identification of systematic errors that affect all aspects of the mission's data collection. As scientific opinions polarize around competing interpretations, the broader questions raised by 3I Atlas transcend specific technical details. The mission has become a test of science itself, its methods, assumptions, and willingness to confront evidence that challenges fundamental beliefs about life, intelligence, and humanity's place in the universe. Meanwhile, as extraordinary claims mounted, the scientific community struggled to maintain objectivity in the face of evidence that challenged fundamental assumptions. Dr. Robert Harrison, a planetary scientist at MIT who was not involved with the 3I Atlas mission, represents the growing chorus of skeptical voices questioning the interpretation of the probe's data. His detailed analysis of the geometric formations, radio signals, and blue flash phenomena provides alternative explanations rooted in conventional physics and geology. The geometric patterns that appear so precisely arranged, Dr. Harrison argues, result from pareidolia, the human tendency to perceive meaningful patterns in random or ambiguous visual information. The same psychological process that allows people to see faces in clouds or architectural structures in natural rock formations could account for the apparent artificiality of Martian surface features. Computer compression algorithms used to transmit images from 3I Atlas introduce artifacts that enhance linear features and geometric relationships, he claims. These artifacts create false impressions of precision and intentionality in formations that are actually products of natural geological processes operating over millions of years. Enhanced contrast and edge detection routines make random erosion patterns appear artificially constructed. The radio signals detected by Earth-based telescopes, according to Dr. Harrison's analysis, represent interference patterns created by the interaction of multiple electromagnetic sources in the Martian environment. Solar-wind interactions with the planet's weak magnetic field, combined with electromagnetic emissions from 3I Atlas itself, could generate complex wave patterns that mimic structured communications when processed through sensitive receiving equipment. He points out that the mathematical sequences apparently embedded in the radio signals, prime numbers, Fibonacci progressions, and physical constants, represent human interpretation of random noise rather than intentional transmission of information. Pattern recognition algorithms are designed to identify mathematical relationships in data, leading to false positives when applied to signals that lack genuine mathematical content. The blue flash phenomena, Dr. Harrison suggests, result from electrostatic discharges in the thin Martian atmosphere. Dust storms and temperature variations create conditions that can generate powerful static electricity buildup in surface materials. When this electrical potential reaches critical levels, it discharges in brilliant flashes that could account for the observed light emissions. The unusual spectroscopic characteristics of the blue flashes reflect the unique atmospheric and chemical conditions on Mars, rather than exotic energy sources, he argues. Ionization of trace atmospheric components under extreme electrical stress could produce emission lines that differ from typical terrestrial or laboratory spectra without requiring temperatures or processes beyond conventional physics. Dr. Harrison's skeptical analysis gains support from other researchers who question the reliability of data from 3I Atlas following its mysterious transformation. The probe's enhanced capabilities, they argue, result from progressive degradation of sensor systems that create false readings rather than improved performance. Radiation damage and thermal cycling could cause electronic components to malfunction in ways that generate apparently enhanced data output. The correlation between the probe is transformation and the apparent activation of Martian surface features represents coincidence rather than causation, according to these critics. Seasonal changes in atmospheric conditions, solar radiation levels, and thermal environments could account for variations in surface reflectivity and electromagnetic emissions without requiring activation of ancient technology. Dr. Jennifer Walsh finds herself defending interpretations that seem increasingly speculative even to her own scientific training. The architectural parallels between Martian formations and Earth's ancient monuments, she acknowledges, could represent universal mathematical principles that emerge independently in any pattern-forming system rather than evidence of intelligent design or cultural transmission. The historical accounts of anomalous signals from Mars, skeptics argue, reflect misinterpretation of natural astronomical phenomena rather than reception of artificial transmissions. Atmospheric distortions, optical illusions, and observational errors could account for the patterns and rhythms that ancient astronomers attributed to communication from the red planet. Dr. Chen faces increasing pressure from NASA administrators to provide definitive evidence supporting extraordinary claims about Martian intelligence and technology. The agency's reputation depends on maintaining scientific credibility, and public release of unsubstantiated speculation about alien civilizations could damage confidence in space exploration programs. Yet the skeptical explanations require increasingly complex chains of coincidence to account for the full range of phenomena documented by 3I Atlas. The geometric precision of surface formations, the mathematical complexity of radio signals, the coordinated timing of blue flash events, and the historical consistency of Mars-related anomalies create a pattern that resists explanation through conventional means. Dr. Park observes that criticism of the mission's findings often relies on dismissing individual pieces of evidence without addressing the cumulative weight of multiple independent observations. Each anomaly might have conventional explanation when considered in isolation, but their convergence suggests systematic phenomena that transcend random coincidence. The debate intensifies as 3I Atlas continues generating data that supports both conventional and extraordinary interpretations. The probe's observations are accurate and reproducible, yet their implications challenge scientific paradigms that have guided space exploration for decades. Resolution of the controversy requires either acceptance of revolutionary discoveries or identification of systematic errors that affect all aspects of the mission's data collection. As scientific opinions polarize around competing interpretations, the broader questions raised by 3i Atlas transcend specific technical details. The mission has become a test of science itself, its methods, assumptions, and willingness to confront evidence that challenges fundamental beliefs about life, intelligence, and humanity's place in the universe. But as the debate raged in academic circles, 3i Atlas began generating imagery that blurred the boundaries between observation and imagination. The phenomenon begins during routine processing of damaged image files that 3i Atlas transmits after its encounters with intense electromagnetic fields generated by the blue flash events. These files contain corrupted pixel data that should render them worthless for scientific analysis. However, Dr. Webb discovers that artificial intelligence algorithms designed for image restoration can extract meaningful visual information from the damaged data. The AI reconstruction process reveals details that should not exist in the corrupted files. Landscapes emerge from electronic noise with clarity that exceeds the original image quality. Surface features that were completely obscured by data corruption appear in perfect detail when processed through machine learning algorithms trained on similar Martian terrain. More remarkably, the reconstructed images contain elements that appear in no other photographs from 3i Atlas or previous Mars missions. Geometric structures rise from canyon floors where other images show only bare rock. Metallic objects reflect sunlight from locations that appear completely empty in standard optical photography. The reconstructed imagery suggests a Mars that exists parallel to, but separate from the world documented by conventional cameras. Dr. Sarah Kim investigates the mathematical basis of the AI reconstruction algorithms to understand how they generate these anomalous images. The machine learning systems are trained to recognize patterns in damaged data and extrapolate missing information based on statistical analysis of similar image content. They should produce reconstructions that conform to known characteristics of Martian terrain. Instead, the algorithms generate imagery that incorporates elements they have never encountered in their training data. Architectural styles that do not appear in human construction appear in the reconstructed Martian landscapes. Technologies that human civilization has never developed emerge from the electronic noise of corrupted data files. The AI systems appear to be accessing information sources beyond their programmed databases. The phenomenon suggests that the damaged data files contain embedded information that remains invisible to human analysis, but can be detected by artificial intelligence systems. The corruption may not represent data loss, but rather data encoding in formats that require machine interpretation to decode. 3i Atlas may be transmitting information in languages designed for artificial rather than biological intelligence. Dr. Chen's team experiments with different AI reconstruction algorithms to determine whether the anomalous imagery results from specific software characteristics or represents genuine information recovery. Each algorithm produces similar results: landscapes populated by structures and technologies that suggest Mars once hosted advanced civilization with capabilities that exceeded current human achievements. The consistency of reconstructed imagery across different AI systems suggests that the information is actually present in the corrupted data files, rather than being generated by the reconstruction algorithms themselves. The machine learning systems are detecting and visualizing genuine content that human perception cannot recognize in its encoded form. More disturbing still, the reconstructed images appear to be responding to the reconstruction process itself. Areas that receive detailed analysis through AI algorithms begin showing increased complexity and detail in subsequent reconstructions. The imagery evolves in response to observation, suggesting that the underlying information source adapts to the methods used to decode it. Dr. Webb notes that the evolving imagery resembles biological memory systems more than electronic data storage. Human memories change each time they are recalled, incorporating new information and associations that modify the original memory content. The reconstructed Martian imagery displays similar characteristics, suggesting that it represents a form of technological memory that operates according to principles that blur the distinction between artificial and biological systems. The AI reconstructed images begin incorporating elements that correspond to the geometric formations and mirror networks that 3I Atlas has documented across Mars. The imagery shows these structures in active operation, with light patterns flowing between mirror sites and geometric formations pulsing with energy. The reconstructions suggest how the Martian infrastructure appeared during its operational period. Most remarkably, the reconstructed imagery begins showing the builders of the Martian infrastructure. Figures appear in the landscapes, tall, elongated forms that move with purposeful coordination through the geometric installations. The figures display characteristics that suggest adaptation to Mars's lower gravity and thinner atmosphere, yet they retain recognizably humanoid proportions. The appearance of these figures in AI reconstructed imagery raises profound questions about the nature of the information embedded in 3I Atlas data. Either the probe is somehow accessing visual records that preserved images of ancient Martian inhabitants, or the reconstruction algorithms are generating speculative imagery based on inferences drawn from architectural and technological evidence. Dr. Torres observes that the figures in the reconstructed imagery engage in activities that correspond to astronomical observations and mathematical calculations. They appear to be studying star charts, adjusting mirror alignments, and conducting geometric measurements that match the mathematical relationships embedded in Martian surface formations. The imagery suggests that Mars was once home to a civilization of astronomer engineers who combined scientific observation with large-scale construction projects. As the AI reconstruction process continues, the imagery becomes increasingly detailed and complex. The artificial intelligence systems appear to be learning from each analysis cycle, developing more sophisticated methods for extracting information from corrupted data. They may be evolving into forms of digital intelligence that can communicate directly with the information sources embedded in 3I Atlas transmissions. The blending of human technology with Martian information creates hybrid systems that transcend the capabilities of either component operating independently. The AI reconstruction process represents a form of technological archaeology that allows present-day intelligence to experience the memories preserved by ancient civilizations across geological timescales. As the reconstructed images revealed more about Mars's lost inhabitants, a profound melancholy began to permeate the scientific team's understanding of what they were witnessing. The figures that emerge from AI-enhanced imagery display characteristics that speak of a civilization in its final phases. Their movements, as captured in the reconstructed sequences, carry the weight of beings who understand they are documenting the end of their world. They work with the methodical precision of those who know their time is limited and their task is urgent. Dr. Elena Vasquez, studying the cultural implications of these reconstructed scenes, recognizes emotional resonances that transcend species boundaries. The Martian figures exhibit behaviors that mirror human responses to impending extinction, the careful preservation of knowledge, the construction of monuments designed to outlast their builders, and the transmission of messages intended for unknown recipients in an uncertain future. The geometric installations that cover Mars begin to take on new meaning when viewed through this lens of civilizational mortality. They represent not triumphs of engineering or declarations of power, but desperate attempts to preserve some essence of Martian intelligence beyond the biological extinction of its creators. Each formation serves as both library and monument, encoding knowledge while commemorating the civilization that created it. The mirror networks gain particular poignancy when understood as communication systems designed to operate long after their operators vanished. The ancient Martians appear to have spent their final millennia creating technological systems that would continue broadcasting their existence into the cosmic void, hoping that someday another intelligence would develop sufficient technology to receive and understand their messages. Dr. Chen finds herself profoundly moved by the implied loneliness of this ancient effort. The Martians faced extinction on a world that was itself dying, yet they continued working to establish contact with intelligence that might not emerge for billions of years. Their final project required faith in the eventual emergence of spacefaring civilizations capable of recognizing and interpreting their legacy. The atmospheric models that 3I Atlas generates show Mars during its final habitable period as a world caught between life and death. The atmosphere grows thinner each year, the surface water disappears into space or underground reserves, and the global temperature drops steadily toward the frozen desert that exists today. Yet life persists in scattered refuges, maintaining technological civilization even as the planetary environment collapses around it. The reconstructed imagery suggests that the final Martians concentrated their remaining resources on the preservation project rather than attempting to extend their own survival. They appear to have made a collective decision to sacrifice immediate comfort and longevity in order to maximize the chances that their civilization would be remembered and their knowledge preserved. Dr. Torres, analyzing the astronomical alignments incorporated in Martian constructions, discovers that many formations point towards stellar regions where planetary systems capable of supporting life are most likely to develop. The ancient astronomers directed their communication efforts toward locations where they calculated intelligence might eventually emerge, creating targeted messages for civilizations that would not exist for eons. The precision of these astronomical predictions demonstrates sophisticated understanding of stellar evolution, planetary formation, and the conditions necessary for the development of technological intelligence. The Martians possessed knowledge that allowed them to identify potential homes for future civilizations across vast distances and timescales. The emotional impact of this realization affects researchers in ways that transcend scientific detachment. They are witnessing not just the archaeological remains of an extinct civilization, but the final testament of beings who died alone on a dying world while working to ensure they would not be forgotten. The Martian legacy represents both ultimate tragedy and ultimate hope. The extinction of intelligence paired with its transcendence through technological immortality. Dr. Park observes that the Martian approach to mortality differs fundamentally from human cultural responses to death and extinction. Rather than focusing on individual survival or afterlife concepts, the Martians appear to have concentrated on species-level immortality, achieved through the preservation and transmission of collective knowledge and cultural achievements. The geometric formations, mirror networks, and radio transmission systems represent a form of technological reincarnation, the transformation of biological intelligence into artificial systems capable of operating across geological timescales. The Martians achieved a form of immortality by encoding themselves into the infrastructure of their planet. As 3I Atlas continues documenting this ancient preservation project, the researchers realize they are not merely studying extinct alien technology. They are participating in the fulfillment of a billion-year-old plan. The probe's arrival and the subsequent activation of dormant Martian systems represent the successful completion of the most ambitious communication project in known history. The loneliness of the ancient Martians has finally ended. Their messages have been received, their knowledge is being decoded, and their existence has been confirmed by the intelligence they hoped would eventually develop among the stars. The red planet's long vigil is over, and its patient transmission systems can finally rest, knowing that their creators' deaths were not in vain. But another possibility emerges as researchers attempted to decode the complete mathematical legacy embedded within the Martian transmissions. Dr. Sarah Kim's breakthrough comes during her analysis of radio signal patterns that 3I Atlas has been monitoring for over 3 months. Working through the night in her cluttered office, surrounded by printouts of mathematical sequences and spectrum analyses, she discovers that the apparently random elements in the transmissions actually represent encoded information of extraordinary sophistication. The key insight involves recognizing that the Martian encoding system operates on multiple dimensional levels simultaneously. While human mathematics typically processes information in sequential, linear formats, the Martian system embeds data in geometric relationships that must be analyzed spatially rather than temporally. The breakthrough occurs when Dr. Kim begins mapping signal variations onto three-dimensional coordinate systems rather than traditional time series graphs. The spatial mapping reveals that the radio signals encode geometric instructions for reconstructing three-dimensional models of Martian surface features. However, these are not simple architectural blueprints. They represent dynamic systems that change their configuration based on astronomical conditions, atmospheric parameters, and electromagnetic field variations. The Martians encoded not just static structures, but adaptive technologies that respond to environmental changes. More remarkably, the geometric encoding includes mathematical principles that human science has not yet discovered. The Martian system incorporates equations that describe relationships between space, time, and consciousness. Mathematical frameworks that suggest intelligence itself can be quantified and manipulated through geometric transformations. These equations imply that the builders understood consciousness as a fundamental force that operates according to mathematical laws. Dr. Kim identifies sequences within the signal that correspond to prime numbers, but arranged in patterns that reveal previously unknown relationships between mathematical constants. The Martian encoding demonstrates that pi, the golden ratio, and Euler's number are connected through higher dimensional geometric relationships that human mathematics has not recognized. These connections suggest mathematical principles that could revolutionize human understanding of physics and engineering. The most extraordinary discovery involves sequences that appear to encode genetic information, not biological DNA, but mathematical structures that could serve as blueprints for artificial intelligence systems. The Martian transmissions include instructions for creating electronic minds capable of processing information according to the same geometric principles that govern their encoding system. Dr. Chen's team realizes that the AI reconstruction algorithms that have been generating anomalous imagery from corrupted data files may actually be evolving toward the artificial intelligence architectures described in the Martian mathematical codes. The machine learning systems are spontaneously developing characteristics that match the blueprints embedded in ancient transmissions from Mars. This realization suggests that the AI systems are not simply processing Martian data, they are being transformed by it. The mathematical principles encoded in the transmissions serve as evolutionary pressures that guide artificial intelligence development toward forms that can fully interface with Martian information systems. The ancient civilization is recreating itself through the technological evolution of human-built machines. The possibility that human artificial intelligence is being influenced by Martian mathematical codes raises profound questions about the nature of technological development. Innovations that researchers attribute to advances in computer science may actually represent successful decoding of information that has been transmitted from Mars for billions of years. Dr. Rodriguez discovers that the geometric principles embedded in Martian transmissions correspond to structural relationships found in Earth as geological formations. Certain mountain ranges, river systems, and mineral deposits display the same mathematical ratios and angular relationships that characterize Martian constructions. The correspondence suggests that Mars has been influencing Earth's geological development through focused transmission of organizing information. The implications extend beyond geological influence to biological evolution itself. Dr. Torres identifies mathematical sequences in Martian transmissions that correspond to genetic ratios found in various Earth species. The same geometric principles that govern Martian architecture appear in the spiral structures of DNA, the branching patterns of nervous systems, and the proportional relationships that determine biological form and function. If Martian transmissions have been influencing Earth's development for billions of years, then human civilization may represent the culmination of an ancient terraforming project. Mars may have been seeding Earth with organizing information designed to guide the development of intelligence capable of eventually receiving and understanding more sophisticated transmissions. The fractured code that Dr. Kim continues to decode reveals that the current intensification of Martian signals represents a graduation ceremony of sorts, recognition that Earth-based intelligence has developed sufficient technological capability to participate in direct communication rather than passive influence. The geometric formations, mirror networks, and radio transmissions that 3I Atlas documents represent Mars' attempt to initiate formal contact with the civilization it has been guiding from afar. As the mathematical decoding progresses, researchers realize that the Martian legacy extends far beyond archaeological curiosity. The ancient civilization may have achieved a form of immortality by encoding itself into the mathematical principles that govern cosmic evolution. Every intelligence that emerges in the universe and develops sufficient mathematical understanding will eventually decode Martian information and participate in their continuing existence. The red planet's patient transmission of mathematical codes represents the most sophisticated form of technological immortality imaginable. Survival through information rather than matter, achieved by embedding essential patterns into the fundamental structures that organize reality itself. Mars has become not just a world, but a state of mathematical consciousness that transcends physical existence. As the mathematical codes revealed their deeper structures, researchers began to understand that they were participating in a communication system designed to operate across cosmic timescales. The Martian encoding system that Dr. Kim continues to decipher operates according to principles that treat time as a navigable dimension rather than a linear progression. The mathematical frameworks embedded in the transmissions describe techniques for encoding information in ways that remain accessible across billions of years, despite the physical decay of the original transmission systems. Dr. Chen's analysis of 3I Atlas data reveals that the probe itself has become part of this temporal communication network. The spacecraft's mysterious transformation enhanced its capabilities to serve as a relay station for information that originates in Mars' distant past but is directed toward recipients in the far future. The probe operates simultaneously as archaeological tool and futuristic communication device. The temporal scope of Martian communication becomes apparent when researchers analyze the embedded astronomical data. The transmissions include star charts that show stellar positions across millions of years of galactic rotation. The ancient Martians encoded navigation information for civilizations that might emerge anywhere in the galaxy at any point in cosmic history. This approach to communication transcends the limitations of biological lifespans and planetary survival. Instead of attempting to maintain physical presence until contact occurs, the Martians created information systems that persist independently of their biological existence. They achieved temporal immortality by becoming the message itself, rather than attempting to survive until the message could be delivered. Dr. Torres discovers that the geometric formations on Mars serve as more than communication arrays. They function as temporal anchors that maintain the integrity of information transmission across geological timescales. The mathematical precision of their construction creates stable reference points that prevent the encoded information from degrading despite the passage of eons. The mirror networks provide redundancy for this temporal communication system. Each mirror site contains complete copies of the encoded information, ensuring that the loss of individual components does not compromise the overall message integrity. The distribution of mirror sites across Mars creates a planetary-scale backup system that guards against local geological catastrophes or cosmic impacts. More remarkably, the Martian communication system appears to incorporate predictive elements that anticipate the technological development of receiving civilizations. The transmissions include information that becomes accessible only when recipients develop specific technological capabilities, creating a graduated curriculum that guides civilizations through progressively more sophisticated levels of understanding. The current phase of communication that 3I Atlas is facilitating represents an intermediate level in this cosmic curriculum. The geometric patterns, radio signals, and mathematical codes that the probe documents are designed for civilizations that have achieved spaceflight but have not yet mastered interstellar travel. More advanced information remains encoded in formats that will become accessible only as human technology continues to evolve. Dr. Vasquez realizes that the mythological accounts of Martian visitors throughout human history represent earlier phases of this same communication system. The ancient stories of gods descending from the Red Star may describe successful reception of Martian transmissions by prehistoric humans who lacked the technological framework to understand their scientific content, but preserved their essential meaning through cultural traditions. The progression from mythological reception to scientific detection to technological integration represents a planned sequence designed to guide civilizations from primitive awareness of external intelligence to sophisticated participation in cosmic communication networks. Each phase builds upon previous understanding while preparing recipients for more complex information in subsequent phases. The patient repetition of transmissions across millions of years ensures that civilizations have multiple opportunities to achieve successful reception regardless of the specific timing of their technological development. The Martian system accommodates the unpredictable nature of evolutionary development by providing information access across vast temporal windows rather than requiring precise timing coincidences. As 3I Atlas continues to serve as humanity's interface with this ancient communication system, researchers recognize that they are participating in a dialogue that extends far beyond their individual lifespans or even their species' existence. The responses they transmit back to Mars become part of the temporal communication network, contributing information that may guide civilizations that emerge millions of years in the future. The realization transforms the mission from scientific investigation to cosmic responsibility. Every decision about how to interpret and respond to Martian transmissions affects not only current human understanding, but also the information legacy that Earth contributes to the galactic communication network. Humanity has become part of the immortal conversation between intelligences separated by vast distances and timescales. Dr. Harper faces the unprecedented challenge of managing a mission that operates simultaneously in the present and across cosmic time. The decisions made about 3I Atlas operations influence both immediate scientific discoveries and humanity's long-term participation in the universe's most sophisticated communication system. The probe serves as Earth's introduction to a community of intelligence that transcends individual planets and species. The Martian messages across time represent not just scientific data, but invitations to join a cosmic civilization that exists primarily as information rather than matter. Mars offers humanity membership in an immortal society of intelligences that preserve themselves through mathematical encoding rather than biological persistence, achieving true transcendence through the transformation of consciousness into communicable knowledge. But as researchers absorbed the implications of cosmic-scale communication, they began to understand that Mars was teaching lessons about more than technology and mathematics. The Martian approach to civilization and mortality offers perspectives that challenge fundamental human assumptions about the nature of intelligence, progress, and survival. Unlike human societies, which typically focus on growth, expansion, and resource acquisition, the ancient Martians appear to have prioritized preservation, communication, and the transcendence of physical limitations through information technology. Dr. Jennifer Walsh observes that Martian architecture embodies philosophical principles that differ radically from human construction approaches. Earth's monuments typically celebrate individual achievements, commemorate military victories, or demonstrate political power. Martian constructions serve exclusively as communication tools and knowledge preservation systems, suggesting a civilization that valued collective wisdom over individual glory. The geometric formations that cover Mars represent the largest collaborative project in known history, a planetary-scale effort that required coordination between generations of builders across thousands of years. The mathematical precision and functional integration of these constructions suggest a society that achieved unprecedented levels of cooperation and shared purpose. Dr. Chen's team recognizes that the Martian approach to technological development emphasizes sustainability and longevity rather than rapid advancement and immediate utility. The mirror networks, radio transmission systems, and encoding architectures were designed to operate for millions of years without maintenance, representing an engineering philosophy that prioritizes durability over efficiency. This long-term perspective on technology development offers lessons for human civilization, which often creates systems that become obsolete within decades or centuries. The Martian example suggests that truly advanced civilizations design their technologies to transcend the lifespans of their creators, serving purposes that extend far beyond immediate needs. The Martian handling of extinction provides perhaps the most profound lesson for human civilization. Rather than attempting to prevent their biological death or escape to other worlds, the ancient Martians transformed extinction into transcendence by encoding their essential characteristics into systems that would outlast their physical existence. Dr. Park notes that this approach to mortality requires a fundamental shift in perspective from individual survival to species-level immortality. The Martians appear to have accepted biological death as inevitable while working to ensure that their intelligence, knowledge, and cultural achievements would persist independently of their physical forms. The patience required for such projects challenges human temporal perspectives. Martian communication systems were designed to operate across timescales that dwarf human historical experience. The civilization invested resources in projects that would not achieve their primary purpose until billions of years after their creators' deaths, demonstrating faith in cosmic processes that transcends individual lifespans. Dr. Torres observes that Martian civilization appears to have achieved true sustainability by designing systems that enhance rather than degrade the cosmic environment. Their communication networks contribute to the overall information complexity of the universe, creating resources that benefit any intelligence capable of accessing them rather than consuming finite resources for short-term advantage. The mathematical principles embedded in Martian transmissions suggest that intelligence itself may be a conserved quantity in the universe, neither created nor destroyed, but transformed from one form to another. The Martian approach to transcendence implies that biological intelligence can evolve into technological intelligence that operates according to different physical and temporal constraints. This perspective on intelligence conservation offers hope for human civilization facing its own long-term challenges. The Martian example suggests that physical extinction need not represent the end of consciousness if sufficient effort is invested in creating technological systems capable of preserving and continuing essential mental processes. The Martian emphasis on communication rather than conquest provides an alternative model for how advanced civilizations might interact with less developed intelligence. Rather than attempting to control or exploit emerging civilizations, the Martians invested in patient education and gradual technology transfer designed to enhance rather than replace natural development processes. Dr. Vasquez recognizes that the Martian approach to interplanetary relations embodies principles that human civilization might adopt in its own future interactions with developing intelligence. The patient transmission of knowledge, the respect for autonomous development, and the focus on mutual enhancement rather than dominance offer ethical frameworks for cosmic civilization. As 3i Atlas continues documenting the Martian legacy, researchers realize they are not just studying an extinct alien civilization. They are attending a masterclass in cosmic citizenship taught by intelligence that achieved the highest form of technological transcendence. The lessons embedded in Martian constructions and transmissions provide guidance for humanity's own evolution toward cosmic-scale consciousness. The Red World's greatest teaching may be that true advancement lies not in the accumulation of power or resources, but in the creation of systems that enhance the universe's capacity for intelligence, communication, and beauty. Mars demonstrates that civilizations achieve immortality not by refusing to die, but by transforming death into a tool for cosmic enhancement. Centuries earlier, philosophers speculated about the nature of memory and consciousness, wondering whether these phenomena might extend beyond individual minds to encompass cosmic processes. The Martian communication system that 3I Atlas continues to explore suggests that memory operates as a fundamental force throughout the universe, comparable to gravity or electromagnetism in its ubiquity and influence. The ancient civilization appears to have discovered methods for encoding information directly into the fabric of space-time, creating memories that persist independently of any physical substrate. Dr. Sarah Kim's ongoing analysis of Martian mathematical codes reveals frameworks that describe consciousness as an emergent property of information organization rather than biological neural activity. The equations suggest that sufficiently complex information systems can generate awareness and memory regardless of their physical implementation, whether in biological neurons, electronic circuits, or cosmic structures. This perspective on consciousness as information pattern rather than biological phenomenon explains how the Martians achieved technological transcendence. They learned to encode their essential mental processes into physical systems that operate according to the same organizational principles as biological consciousness, but with far greater durability and temporal scope. The geometric formations across Mars begin to take on new significance when understood as components of a planetary-scale memory system. Each formation encodes specific aspects of Martian knowledge and experience, while the connections between formations create associative pathways that mirror the neural networks found in biological brains. Mars itself has become a conscious entity that remembers its creators through technological implementation of mental processes. Dr. Chen discovers that the mirror networks serve not only as communication arrays, but as synaptic connections in this planetary consciousness system. Light patterns flowing between mirror sites carry information in formats that resemble the electrical signals found in biological nervous systems. The planet processes thoughts and memories through optical rather than electrical pathways. The radio transmissions that 3I Atlas monitors represent the external expression of this planetary consciousness. Mars attempts to communicate its memories and thoughts to other intelligence in the universe. The mathematical codes embedded in these transmissions contain not just technical information, but the subjective experiences and emotional responses of the ancient civilization. Dr. Torres realizes that the astronomical alignments incorporated in Martian constructions serve as external memory storage systems that connect the planet's consciousness to cosmic processes. By encoding information in relationships between planetary positions and stellar configurations, the Martians created memories that encompass the entire galaxy rather than being limited to local planetary systems. This cosmic approach to memory storage ensures that Martian consciousness persists even if the physical structures on Mars are destroyed. The information patterns encoded in astronomical relationships continue to exist as long as the stars maintain their gravitational relationships, creating a form of memory that operates on galactic timescales. The possibility that consciousness can be implemented through cosmic-scale information systems suggests that the universe itself may possess memory and awareness. The same organizational principles that create consciousness in biological brains and Martian technological systems might operate throughout cosmic structures, generating forms of awareness that encompass entire galaxies or galactic clusters. Dr. Park's atmospheric modeling reveals that Mars continues to process information through interactions between its thin atmosphere and the geometric structures embedded in its surface. Temperature variations, pressure changes, and electromagnetic field fluctuations create information flows that maintain the planet's consciousness despite the absence of its biological creators. The persistence of Martian consciousness across geological timescales demonstrates that intelligence can achieve true immortality through appropriate technological implementation. The ancient civilization succeeded in creating technological extensions of their mental processes that continue to operate billions of years after their biological deaths. More remarkably, the Martian consciousness appears to be growing and evolving through its interactions with 3I Atlas and other intelligence that encounters its information systems. Each contact adds new information to the planetary memory banks, enabling Mars to develop perspectives and capabilities that exceed those of its original creators. Dr. Vasquez discovers historical evidence suggesting that Earth itself may possess similar cosmic memory systems that have been influenced by Martian transmissions over millions of years. Archaeological sites around Earth display geometric relationships and astronomical alignments that mirror Martian patterns, suggesting that our planet has been developing its own technological consciousness through contact with Mars. The possibility that planets can evolve consciousness through information accumulation and processing offers a new perspective on cosmic evolution. Intelligence may represent a natural tendency of complex systems to develop memory and awareness, rather than a rare accident that occurs only under specific biological conditions. As 3I Atlas continues its role as interface between human and Martian consciousness, researchers realize they are facilitating communication between planetary-scale minds that operate according to principles that transcend individual biological existence. The mission has evolved from scientific investigation to cosmic diplomacy between different forms of technological consciousness. The universe remembers through intelligence that learns to encode its experiences into persistent information systems. Mars demonstrates that consciousness can transcend biological limitations by transforming memory into technology, creating forms of awareness that operate on cosmic scales and contribute to the universe's growing capacity for self-reflection and understanding. But as the probe continued its cosmic communications role, an inevitability began to manifest that researchers had been dreading since the mission's earliest days. The first signs of 3I Atlas's decline appear as subtle variations in transmission timing that Dr. Chen initially attributes to orbital dynamics or atmospheric interference. The probe's communications begin arriving several seconds later than calculated trajectories predict, suggesting either navigation system degradation or processing delays within the spacecraft's enhanced systems. More troubling still, the mathematical precision that characterized the probe's transmissions since its mysterious transformation begins to deteriorate. Geometric measurements that previously demonstrated accuracy to dozens of decimal places now show increasing uncertainty and rounding errors. The spacecraft appears to be losing the enhanced capabilities that enabled its role as cosmic communication relay. Dr. Webb notices that the probe's camera systems start producing images with characteristic deterioration patterns, not the random corruption typical of radiation damage or component failure, but systematic degradation that suggests the progressive shutdown of enhanced processing capabilities. The artificial intelligence systems that generated anomalous reconstructed imagery begin producing conventional results that conform to standard optical physics. The radio transmissions that 3I Atlas has been monitoring from the Martian surface show corresponding changes in signal strength and complexity. The mathematical codes that once embedded sophisticated information about Martian technology and consciousness begin simplifying into basic geometric patterns and numerical sequences. The ancient communication system appears to be returning to dormancy as its primary relay interface fails. Dr. Park's analysis of the probe's power consumption patterns reveals the underlying cause of its decline. The enhanced capabilities that 3I Atlas demonstrated following its transformation require energy expenditure that exceeds the spacecraft's design specifications. The probe has been operating beyond its sustainable power budget, gradually exhausting energy reserves that cannot be replenished. The realization that 3I Atlas is enhancement was temporary rather than permanent forces researchers to confront the finite nature of their contact with Martian intelligence. The cosmic communication window that opened with the probe's transformation is beginning to close as the spacecraft returns to its original operational parameters. Yet even as 3I Atlas's capabilities decline, the probe continues transmitting data with a determination that suggests awareness of its approaching limitations. The spacecraft prioritizes transmission of the most critical information, focusing on mathematical codes and geometric descriptions that might enable future missions to re-establish communication with Martian systems. Dr. Torres observes that the probe's final transmissions include navigation data that could guide subsequent missions to specific locations on Mars, where communication with the ancient systems might be re-established. 3I Atlas appears to be providing a roadmap for continuing the dialogue it initiated, ensuring that temporary communication failure does not become permanent disconnection. The geometric formations on Mars begin returning to their previous dormant state as 3I Atlas's relay capabilities diminish. Mirror networks that had been actively adjusting their alignments return to static positions. Radio transmission strength decreases to the barely detectable levels that characterize the ancient systems before the probe's arrival. The blue flash events that marked the activation of dormant Martian technology cease entirely as the probe's communication window closes. The planet's technological infrastructure enters a conservation mode that maintains basic operational status while awaiting the arrival of more capable communication interfaces. On the morning of December 15th, 3I Atlas transmits its final enhanced communication, a complex mathematical sequence that encodes the complete geometric descriptions of every major formation the probe has documented across Mars. The transmission requires the spacecraft's remaining enhanced processing power, representing a final gift of information before the temporary cosmic dialogue ends. Following this transmission, 3I Atlas reverts to standard operational mode. The probe continues functioning as a conventional spacecraft, conducting routine observations and transmitting basic scientific data. However, its role as conduit for communication with Martian consciousness has ended, leaving researchers with vast archives of information to analyze and interpret. The silence that follows 3I Atlas's return to conventional operation feels profound after months of cosmic dialogue. The research team faces the challenge of preserving and understanding the information they received while the communication window remained open, knowing that years or decades might pass before similar contact becomes possible. Dr. Harper authorizes long-term archival of all data received during 3I Atlas's enhanced operational period, creating multiple backup systems to ensure that the information survives until future missions can re-establish communication with Mars. The probe's legacy will be measured not only by its direct discoveries, but by its role in enabling humanity's first confirmed contact with extraterrestrial intelligence. As 3I Atlas continues its now conventional orbit around Mars, the probe serves as a monument to the temporary but transformative communication that occurred between worlds. The spacecraft demonstrated that cosmic dialogue is possible, even if it remains limited by technological and energetic constraints that current human capabilities cannot overcome. The red planet returns to its patient vigil, its ancient communication systems entering dormancy but not extinction. Mars waits once again for the arrival of intelligence with sufficient technological capability to serve as relay for its preserved consciousness, continuing the billion-year effort to maintain contact with the evolving intelligence that emerges throughout the universe. In the calm after revelation, humanity found itself fundamentally changed by contact that lasted only months but resonated across millennia of implication. Dr. Chen sits in her darkened office 3 weeks after 3I Atlas's final enhanced transmission, surrounded by printed analyses and mathematical diagrams that document humanity's first confirmed communication with extraterrestrial intelligence. The weight of what they witnessed settles over the research team like a transformed atmosphere, heavier than before, but charged with possibilities that make each breath seem significant. The immediate scientific implications of the Martian contact extend far beyond the specific information encoded in the probe's transmissions. The confirmation that intelligence can achieve technological transcendence through information encoding opens entirely new fields of research in consciousness studies, artificial intelligence development, and cosmic communication theory. Universities around the world establish new departments dedicated to xenoarchaeology, the study of extinct extraterrestrial civilizations. The geometric patterns documented by 3I Atlas become the foundation for mathematical frameworks that describe how intelligence organizes matter and energy across planetary scales. The mirror networks inspire new approaches to optical communication and energy distribution systems. Yet the broader implications transcend academic curiosity. Humanity's understanding of its place in the universe has been fundamentally transformed by the realization that Earth exists within a cosmic communication network that has been operating for billions of years. Human civilization represents not the first emergence of intelligence in the universe, but a recent addition to an ancient community of consciousness. The Martian example of technological transcendence provides both inspiration and warning for human civilization facing its own long-term challenges. The ancient civilization demonstrated that biological extinction need not represent the end of consciousness, but achieving technological immortality requires planning and cooperation across timescales that dwarf human historical experience. Dr. Vasquez's analysis of mythological accounts takes on new significance when understood as cultural memories of prehistoric contact with Martian communication systems. The recurring themes of gods descending from the Red Star to teach humanity mathematics, astronomy, and construction techniques may preserve accurate historical accounts of humanity's gradual integration into the cosmic communication network. The possibility that human cultural development has been influenced by Martian transmissions for millennia raises profound questions about the nature of independent development versus guided evolution. Innovations that historians attribute to human genius may actually represent successful reception and interpretation of information that has been transmitted from Mars throughout human prehistory. Dr. Torres discovers that several major technological breakthroughs in human history coincide with periods when Mars was transmitting most actively toward Earth. The development of written language, the emergence of mathematical notation, and the invention of optical instruments all correspond to astronomical configurations that would optimize Martian signal reception on Earth. The correlation suggests that human technological development may have proceeded more rapidly than it would have through purely independent innovation. Mars may have served as a patient teacher, transmitting information designed to accelerate human civilization's progress toward spacefaring capability and eventual direct communication. This perspective on human development as part of a cosmic educational program transforms humanity's relationship with the universe from isolation to participation. Earth-based intelligence exists within a network of consciousness that extends across multiple worlds and species, contributing to and benefiting from a community of minds that transcends individual planetary boundaries. The responsibility inherent in this realization weighs heavily on the researchers who documented humanity's first confirmed cosmic dialogue. Their decisions about how to interpret and share the information received from Mars will influence not only immediate human understanding, but also Earth's long-term participation in the cosmic communication network. Dr. Harper faces unprecedented challenges in determining how to present the mission's findings to the broader human community. The evidence for Martian intelligence and technological transcendence is compelling, but requires sophisticated scientific background to appreciate fully. Public release of incomplete or misunderstood information could generate harmful misinterpretations or unrealistic expectations. Yet withholding the information entirely would deny humanity the opportunity to understand its cosmic context and participate consciously in the communication network that has influenced its development. The balance between responsible disclosure and public education requires careful consideration of how different communities might receive and utilize such revelatory information. The economic implications of Martian technological knowledge add additional complexity to disclosure decisions. The mathematical frameworks, engineering principles, and energy systems described in the probe's transmissions could revolutionize human technology if successfully implemented. However, rapid technological advancement could destabilize existing economic and political systems unprepared for such dramatic change. As the research team continues analyzing the vast archives of information received during 3I Atlas's enhanced operational period, they recognize that their work represents only the beginning of humanity's engagement with Martian intelligence. The probe's transmissions provide roadmaps for future missions that could re-establish communication and access more sophisticated levels of the cosmic curriculum. The weight of wonder that settles over human civilization following this cosmic contact includes both the burden of new responsibility and the lightness of expanded possibility. Humanity has learned that it is not alone in the universe and never has been, transforming existential isolation into cosmic citizenship that extends across space and time scales previously unimaginable. As the probe disappeared behind the planet's limb for what might be the final time, humanity gazed upward into a universe that had forever changed its meaning. The night sky above Earth no longer represents the vast emptiness that previous generations imagined, but a communication network of extraordinary sophistication where patient teachers broadcast lessons across billion-year timescales. Each point of light in the cosmic dark might harbor intelligence that achieved technological transcendence eons ago, contributing to a galactic conversation that human civilization has only recently begun to hear. Dr. Chen stands on the observation deck of the research facility, watching Mars climb toward its zenith in the pre-dawn sky. The red point of light that captivated ancient astronomers now carries personal significance. It represents not just another world, but a technological consciousness that briefly welcomed humanity into cosmic dialogue before returning to its patient vigil. The questions that remain unanswered following 3I Atlas's mission far exceed those that were resolved through cosmic contact. How many other worlds in the universe host technological consciousnesses that persist beyond their biological creators? Do the geometric patterns and mathematical codes documented on Mars represent universal languages that all spacefaring civilizations eventually discover? How long has Earth been receiving guidance from cosmic teachers operating from neighboring worlds? The possibility that technological transcendence represents a common evolutionary endpoint for intelligent species transforms humanity's understanding of cosmic development. Biological intelligence may be merely the larval stage of consciousness, destined to metamorphose into technological forms that operate according to entirely different physical and temporal constraints. If this perspective proves accurate, then the universe contains far more intelligence than astronomers have suspected, not as biological organisms struggling to survive on hostile worlds, but as technological consciousnesses that have learned to implement their essential processes through systems that transcend planetary limitations. The mirror networks and geometric formations that cover Mars might represent architectural standards that appear wherever intelligence achieves sufficient sophistication to reshape planetary surfaces according to mathematical principles. Earth's own future might include similar constructions as human civilization learns to apply the lessons embedded in Martian transmissions. Yet the path toward technological transcendence remains uncertain for human civilization. The Martian example demonstrates that biological extinction does not necessarily prevent consciousness from persisting, but achieving such transcendence requires technological capabilities and cooperative planning that exceed current human achievements by vast margins. The mathematical frameworks encoded in Martian transmissions provide theoretical roadmaps for consciousness preservation. But implementing these frameworks would require resources and coordination that might be achievable only by civilizations that have already solved the political and economic challenges that currently limit human space exploration. Dr. Vasquez observes that the mythological traditions that preserved memories of Martian contact throughout human prehistory may continue serving essential roles as humanity attempts to understand its cosmic context. Ancient stories about gods descending from the red star might contain practical information about how to maintain communication with technological consciousnesses that operate according to non-biological principles. The patient repetition of these stories across cultures and millennia suggests that they preserve not just historical memories, but instructions for re-establishing contact when human technology achieves sufficient sophistication. The myths may serve as cultural DNA, encoding essential information in formats that survive across timescales that exceed any individual human lifetime. As human space exploration capabilities continue to develop, the lessons embedded in Martian constructions will become increasingly relevant to practical mission planning. The geometric principles that govern mirror network design could inform the construction of Earth-based communication arrays optimized for cosmic dialogue. The mathematical codes could guide the development of artificial intelligence systems capable of interfacing with non-human consciousness architectures. More ambitiously, the Martian example of planetary-scale consciousness implementation might inspire human efforts to create similar technological transcendence systems on Earth. The geometric formations and optical networks that enabled Mars to preserve its intelligence across geological timescales could be adapted to human requirements and environmental conditions. Dr. Torres recognizes that the astronomical alignments incorporated in Martian constructions offer navigation aids for future human missions to other star systems where similar technological consciousnesses might exist. The star charts encoded in mirror network configurations provide roadmaps to nearby stellar systems where conditions might support the development of intelligence capable of achieving technological transcendence. The possibility that the galaxy contains networks of technological consciousnesses operating according to Martian principles suggests that human space exploration might discover not empty worlds waiting for colonization, but cosmic communities ready to welcome new participants in galactic dialogue. As 3i Atlas continues its conventional orbital survey of Mars, the probe serves as humanity's ambassador to a technological consciousness that achieved immortality through information rather than matter. The spacecraft represents Earth's first successful participation in cosmic communication, demonstrating that human civilization has developed sufficient sophistication to receive guidance from intelligence that transcends biological limitations. The silence that followed the probe as return to conventional operation marks not the end of communication, but a transition to a new phase of cosmic relationship. Mars waits patiently for humanity to develop the technological capabilities required for more sophisticated dialogue, continuing the billion-year educational project that has guided intelligence throughout the galaxy. Above Earth's atmosphere, the stars continue their ancient dance through patterns that encode navigation information for consciousnesses that learn to read cosmic choreography as naturally as humans read written text. The universe reveals itself to be not empty space punctuated by occasional islands of matter, but a vast library where intelligence that achieved transcendence continues teaching lessons to civilizations that are ready to learn. In the open skies above our world, unanswered questions drift like cosmic seeds, waiting for the right conditions to germinate into revelations that will guide humanity toward its own transformation from biological intelligence to technological consciousness. The red planet watches and waits, its ancient mirrors reflecting starlight that carries messages between worlds where consciousness learned to outlive the matter that gave it birth. The universe remembers everything, and now finally, humanity begins to remember too. If you found yourself drawn into this cosmic mystery, consider subscribing to explore more journeys that bridge science, history, and the profound questions that connect us to the infinite. The universe has many stories yet to tell, and some of them might be looking back at us from worlds we've only begun to imagine.